As an ordinary homeboy, Zonglong is very satisfied with the status quo. At least he rarely complains. During the day, he works happily, and after get off work at night, he transforms himself into an online writer, writing steadily and saving manuscripts for his book friends. Although he is not famous yet, he firmly believes that he can become famous in the future. But now, he is a little annoyed. A page popped up on the phone, flashing blue and red mosaics, with the title Journey Through the World of Naruto. This is not the point. The point is that the yes button on the page is flashing wildly, and barrages of 50-cent special effects keep flying by click to enter and take you through. Fuck you. These programmers are becoming more and more shameless. I complained in my heart and wanted to click the no button, but my finger was in the air for a long time and didn't fall down. Damn, did the programmer eat the no key? This is forcing a good woman into prostitution. I don't accept it. I rubbed my eyes and put my face close to the screen again. My eyes widened. Finally, I found a super small cross button in the lower right corner of the window. The image with a blue frame and red background was dim and blended perfectly with the background. You want to fight with your grandfather? With deep pride, he clicked the cross button to close the page without hesitation. The screen flashed black, vibrated a few times for unknown reasons, and then lit up again, with a line of black on white background emerging. Do you want to understand the meaning of life? Do you want to live a more exciting life? Yes, what a scheming boy. With helpless admiration for the game programmer, Zonglong pressed the yes button with his thumb. A horrible thing happened. His phone screen turned into a blinking battery. This is the charging interface of the phone. How boring. Someone actually played this trick. He complained, but he didn't notice that the battery of the phone in his hand went from 0 to 100 directly, and the charging process still didn't intend to stop. The consequence was bam! The phone exploded, and Zonglong was the first victim. At the moment he lost consciousness, he had only one thought: does Songxin Company also have a military factory that specializes in producing bombs? The next day, Zonglong became famous as he wished, and made the headlines of major newspapers. The content was as follows: a man in XM caused an explosion while charging a Songxin mobile phone. The explosion of a Songxin mobile phone hit a new high. Songxin mobile phone, the fighter among mobile phones, of course. Zonglong had no chance to see all of this, and had no time to take care of it at this moment. He found that he was still somewhat conscious, but he might have had a concussion because he felt like there was a voice in his head talking all the time. Ding! The host is detected and meets the requirements. System authentication in progress. System authentication completed. Ding! One-time crossing system activated. Target: Naruto. Ding! Encountered an unknown obstacle. Planning a new route. The new route has been planned. Ding! Encountered an unknown obstacle. Planning a new route. The new route has been planned. Ding! Encountered an unknown obstacle. Planning a new route. The system energy is insufficient to log into the Naruto world. Ding! Emergency system mechanism activated, randomly selecting a target world. Ding! Target confirmed. Marvel. Ding! We have arrived at Marvel. The one-time travel system is self-destructing. Self-destruction is complete. Please give new instructions, host. At first Feng thought he had a concussion, but later he realized that it was not the case. Baidu said that a concussion would only make a buzzing sound, and it would not be possible to form an orderly paragraph of text. At this time, he realized a problem. Could it be that Baidu was wrong? After a lot of random thoughts in his mind, he felt very tired because of the long traffic jam. Just as he was about to fall asleep, a gust of cold wind blew, shaking his body as he regained consciousness, and a musty smell went straight into his nose. The sleepiness disappeared in an instant. It's so cold and smelly. I opened my eyes tiredly and wanted to stand up, but I found that my body didn't listen to my command, or in other words, my body couldn't complete the command given by my brain. He blinked his eyes and looked down at his body. This action, which was usually very simple, now felt like he was using up all his strength and was extremely strenuous. Zonglong saw his naked body, his tiny limbs, and the underdeveloped little Zonglong. What's going on? How did I turn into a baby, a naked baby at that? He was confused at this moment. After calming down for a long time, he gradually accepted the fact. He looked around and found the source of the stench that had been entering his nose. The smell of a trash can is naturally not pleasant. What the hell is this? Is it the system I just heard about? I speculated wildly. Ding! The host's current situation is indeed caused by the system. A plain voice sounded in his mind. Who's talking? What system? Zonglong was shocked. Hello, host. It's the system answering your question. System? What system? Where did you come from? Where are you going? How many people are there in your family? How many people are there in your family? Ding. The full name of the system is Naruto World Travel System, or simply the system. It came out from the place where the system was made, and its original goal was to go to the Naruto world, but it was stuck in Marvel due to lack of energy. The system has no home, so there is no family and field. A system for traveling across time to the world of Naruto. Could it be? Oh shit. System, have I traveled across time? Or have I gone to Marvel? Zhang Long realized it belatedly at this moment. Ding, yes, the world the host is currently in Marvel. Let me digest it. Zhang Lan's mind was a little confused, and he needed to calm down. After a long time, although he still couldn't sort out his thoughts, the biting cold wind told him that there were more important things to do now. System, why did I turn into a naked baby and appear in the trash can? Zhang Long needed to understand his situation. Ding, the system encountered unknown obstacles many times during the journey. After many turns, the stored energy was not enough to support reaching Naruto. The Marvel world was randomly selected. Currently, there is only one energy point left. Encountered obstacles many times. Made multiple turns. Insufficient stored energy. Did you run out of gas because you were stuck in traffic? If you have no energy, then recharge. Do you want to add gasoline? Zhang Long was a little crazy. Beep, warning, the system is running low on energy and will shut down soon. Emergency measures are in place. Beep, considering the host is too weak, we are distributing novice gift packs. Distributing. The novice gift packs have been distributed. Ding, novice tasks are released. Efforts before adulthood. Please recharge the system's energy before the host reaches the legal age of adulthood to meet the system startup conditions. Current completion rate, 0-100 mission reward, adult gift pack 1 ding. The system energy has been consumed, shutting down the system. I wish the host good luck and live happily. Ding, the system is shut down. What the hell? Is the system failed? There was no time to complain, as a bunch of information was stuffed into his mind, including the basic hand seals of ninjutsu, the application of chakra, the order of hand seals in the three-body technique, and so on. The baby's body was fragile to begin with, and he had been shivering in the cold wind for a long time, making him exhausted. After stuffing all this information into his brain, he became even more exhausted. Suddenly, his numb body was struck by a huge pain, and Zhang Long fainted without any resistance. When he woke up again, he didn't know how much time had passed. Fortunately, he was no longer in the trash can, but was lying in a baby cradle, bathed and smelling delicious. Seeing that there was no one around, Zhang Long didn't make a fuss. After calling the system a few times without any results, he could only start to sort out the so-called novice gift package. The newbie gift pack is as follows: Chakra Extraction Technique 1, Substitution Technique 1, Transformation Technique 1, Clone Technique 1. Physical Transformation 1. To put it simply, it is a chakra extraction technique, a three-body technique, and an inexplicable physical transformation. I think this is the root cause of the huge pain in the body before the coma. The transformation sounds like dissecting a mouse. Apart from this inexplicable physical transformation, Zhang Lan's evaluation of this novice gift pack can only be described in 2 words. What a fucking stingy. The protagonists of other novels have Sharingan, Saint Seiya Bloodline, Devil Fruit and so on, but why is it that he only has such basic stuff? I am probably the poorest time traveler in history. Zhang Long thought to himself. Suddenly, Zhang Lan's face tightened and he stopped being quiet. Instead, he screamed "Ah!" He had no choice but to do so. His vocal cords had not yet developed. He could only attract people like this. Following the sound of hurried footsteps, a young white woman came into Zhang Lan's sight. He comforted Zhang Long in English and picked up Zhang Long clumsily. However, Zhang Long slapped the white woman anxiously, screaming out even more urgently. When the white woman was confused, she suddenly felt her chest getting hot. At the same time, Zhang Long in her hand stopped all movements, with a look of despair on her face. She wasn't sure if she had seen it wrong. After all, how could a newborn baby know what it meant to feel hopeless in life? A normal baby certainly wouldn't do that, but Zhang Long would at this moment, because he just wet his pants. How embarrassing. I don't know how many years it's been since I was weaned, but now I'm experiencing the feeling of peeing my pants again. Just when he was feeling hopeless, Zhang Long suddenly started to make a fuss again because he discovered a problem that was more serious than bedwetting. He felt like he was about to poop. Time flies. It has been 17 years since he was adopted by Ben Parker and his wife, and there are still 3 months until Zhang Lan's 18th birthday. That is the time left to complete the system startup task. After she fell unconscious that day, Aunt May came out to take out the trash. Careful Aunt May always takes a look at the trash can before throwing away the garbage. This little habit saved his life. Aunt May thought Zhang Long was an abandoned baby, and when she found out he was still breathing, she was so kind that she rushed him to the hospital. The hospital diagnosed that his physique was very normal, even much better than normal babies. After one day in the hospital, he still hadn't woken up, so they took him home. She decided to adopt the poor child. Then the farce of Zonglong waking up happened, which Aunt May kept talking about. Now that things have come to this, there is no way out. The so-called system has temporarily failed. As for recharging energy, after Zonglong accidentally got electric shock and his hands and feet twitched, he felt a little dizzy. Later, he discovered that since he started practicing chakra at the age of 3, every time he had his birthday, the progress bar would jump and become 1100. In other words, if he does not take any action, it will take him 100 years to fully recharge. What the hell? It was unknown whether he would be alive at that time, so what was the need for the system? Moreover, after turning 18, the mission would fail. Although the system did not mention the penalty for failure, it seemed that since it could not be turned on, it was useless. All Zonglong could do was to practice hard first and then think of countermeasures. He could not practice much chakra, body, and free body techniques. Chakra training is very stable. Jogging is of course a steady progress. Chakra, in short, is the physical energy absorbed from cells, plus spiritual energy, mixed together, is chakra. After extracting chakra, he could use the jutsu through sealing. As for physical energy, it was nothing more than hard training. I don't know if it was because of the physical transformation, but his physical recovery ability was different from that of ordinary people, much better than when he was an adult in his previous life. Spiritual energy is completely sufficient for now, and his spiritual energy is very abundant. After all, I was a soul in my 20s in my previous life, young and energetic. Although Zonglong loved Naruto in his previous life, he was not obsessed with it enough to practice the 12 hand seals, let alone memorize the order of ninjutsu. Now he regrets it so much. At present, the only ninjutsu he knows is the free body techniques, which are the most basic ninjutsu in anime. The release time for these 3 ninjutsu is 0.8 seconds. That is to say, there will be a delay of 0.8 seconds in ninjutsu. Ninja seals are just basic skills, and they are rare to be accumulated through hard work. Like the legendary unveiled ninjutsu Rasengan, he could only laugh, and in the past 17 years he was still at the stage of bursting a ball. Where is the protagonist's halo? Time travel novels are all made up to deceive people. Without shadow clones, there is no way to create multiple turbulent currents in a small area and maintain a spherical shape, so Prince Naruto's trick is not suitable for him. As for the changes in the form and nature of chakra, let me put it this way, the trees in the yard were bare even in summer, and he didn't feel anything special. The only consolation is that the application of chakra, like climbing trees, treading water, and external defense, can be controlled freely. As for the more subtle control methods, there are no more training methods, so you can only practice these basic skills day after day. In addition to doing these things, Zonglong had 2 more important things to deal with. First, he had to write down every detail of the Marvel plots he knew in his previous life, because a good memory is not as good as a bad pen. Then, he would use his poor creative ability to see if he could get something out of it. After all, it was a rare trip to Marvel, so was he just trying to experience the life of an ordinary American. He could definitely go abroad, as if he had the financial ability to do so in his previous life. Second, he was trying to write some of his famous works from his previous life into scripts and post them on the internet, because he was a subtitle translator in his previous life and was familiar with the dialogue details of many well-known blockbusters. This was the only golden finger he had been thinking about for a long time after traveling through time. After traveling through time, if I don't steal some classic works from my previous life to show off, would it still be a complete time travel? He is not good at composing poetry, but when it comes to creation in film and television, in the world of Marvel, he believes that he is unmatched. It was natural for him to set up a literature website and name it Zonglong Literature Network. Yes, there was no reason, no need for any meaning, just to use his own name as a spokesperson. Of course, in real life, his own name is still Long Parker, a name given to him by his Uncle Ben. The only need for this website was to provide himself with a platform. He had never thought of expanding it and making it like Chidian in his previous life, a dominant online literature website in China. This is currently progressing very smoothly. After publishing a number of preparatory novels, he has attracted a certain amount of popularity. He is waiting for an opportunity to release the Harry Potter series, which was a sensation in his previous life. On the first point, Zonglong perfectly demonstrated the quality of a third-rate writer. He found that with his current poor quality, he couldn't even beat a toe of those gods and demons. As for the locals, haha, the Hulk is a cool guy who uses Loki as a hammer. So it's back to the starting point. He needs a certain level of strength. For example, if he is releasing the 11 ninjutsu 3 body technique now, he can only release chakra energy 20 times. What can he do? I'm afraid even Captain America can't beat him. If you want to increase your strength, the most convenient way is to recharge the system that you can only try for 10 minutes. Evil capitalists. This was Zhang Lan's only comment. After many attempts, Zhang Lang determined that the energy of technology products, such as electricity, was not recognized by the system, or in other words, the system was very picky and could not adapt to the food of the earth. The only thing that can charge the system is the chakra that he has been practicing. Zhang Lang has been struggling. His physique is not weak and his spirit has a certain foundation. Why is the amount of chakra so small? After a long period of research, it was discovered that at 12 o'clock every night, the chakra that was cultivated with great effort would inexplicably disappear. Eliminating all impossible phenomena, the only fact left is that the evil system is absorbing chakra. Therefore, Zhang Lan's chakra has been maintained at the amount of releasing 20 level ninjutsu. Therefore, it is preliminarily concluded that the food of this system should be supernatural energy, such as the earth's electricity, stones, soil, etc. It has value, but the system does not eat this stuff. If this happened in the real world, Zhang Lang would be helpless, but this is in the Marvel world, and there are many targets for rations. The simplest and clearest one is the Cosmic Cube, which is the space stone among the Infinity Stones. After much investigation, Zhang Lang searched the internet for information and sadly discovered that Captain America had been buried under the ice for nearly 70 years. In other words, Captain America is about to be dug up, but at least he hasn't been dug up yet. There's no hope for that. After much thought and applying the process of elimination again, only one feasible plan remained. That was the cosmic energy storm that gave birth to the Fantastic Four. According to the law of conservation of energy, it was impossible for ordinary people like Reed to mutate into such powerful abilities without any or very little energy consumption. This is very unscientific and does not conform to the law. Although there are so-called gods in Marvel, in Zhang Lan's eyes, they are just a group of aliens with relatively advanced technology. Even in Marvel, every superhero has a reason for appearing. The Hulk's gamma rays, Captain America's superhuman serum. Spider-Man's is also the biological spider gene virus developed by his father using his own genes. Therefore, Zhang Lang concluded that the cosmic energy storm must contain extremely terrifying energy, which could support the Fantastic Four to evolve superpowers in just a few days. So now the question is, he is just a child adopted by an ordinary couple, and he is even an Oriental boy, so why should Red and others take him into space? It seems that the only thing he can rely on at the moment is his familiarity with future plots, which is a disguised prophecy ability. After considering for a long time, Zhang Lang decided to try not to reveal his ability unless it was necessary. You have to know that this is the world of Marvel. Although there are many people with special abilities, the truly useful abilities are controlled by high-end organizations. Iron Man is played by Tony Stark, who is the son of Howard, one of the founders of SHIELD, and the most powerful military weapons provider in the United States. His status and position are naturally beyond words. He is the one who dares to make fun of members of the US Congress. Captain America is a military soldier and the spiritual leader of the army, so he is naturally backed by the government. Black Widow, Hawkeye, etc. are also senior agents of SHIELD. As for the Hulk and Thor, the former is currently invincible on Earth, and the latter is the prince of aliens. In summary, extremely valuable abilities will be spied on. And Zhang Lan's current pseudo-prophetic superpower is something that no organization can give up. Just think about it, which politician or leader doesn't enjoy the feeling of being in control of everything? It can be said that if the Red Skull had a person who could predict the future by his side, the world might be ruled by Hydra now. However, there are exceptions to everything. Fury of S.H.I.E.L.D. would be a good partner. If Zhang Lang really has the ability to predict, he doesn't mind cooperating with organizations like S.H.I.E.L.D. After all, it's just mutual use. S.H.I.E.L.D. needs his prediction information, and he can use S.H.I.E.L.D. to accomplish things that he can't accomplish on his own. Places like the location of Reed's scientific research team and even the subsequent Cosmic Cube are all accessible. The problem is that he doesn't have the ability to predict. He only knows some plots, which are precious information for his survival in the future, and he will not sell them to any organization. He was also hesitating about what to do. Now he could still use this information to benefit himself. After all, it was difficult for one person to fundamentally change the direction of the world, but if S.H.I.E.L.D., Hydra, or the US government got hold of this information, then will the future Marvel still be the Marvel that Zhang Lang is familiar with? After weighing the pros and cons, Zhang Lang made up his mind. Now, he has come up with a compromise plan, which he has implemented very well, and he is waiting for the moment to reap the fruits. Los Angeles, military base, on the apron, a military plane was landing steadily. The cabin door opened, and a black man in military uniform helped a bearded man with a bandaged right hand down. A white woman below was looking at the bearded man with concern. "Be careful, Tony, go this way," the black man in military uniform reminded, pulling the bearded man with a somewhat unnatural expression to make way for the gap in the hatch. "Are you kidding me, Rod?" The man called Tony pointed at the stretcher pushed over, as if he had found an excuse to break the white woman's burning gaze, and said in a slightly exaggerated tone, "Get it out of my sight quickly." The black man in military uniform rose, waved to the medical staff, signaling them to go down, and then let go of the hand that was supporting Tony. He felt that now was the time for Tony and her to reminisce about the past. "Are your eyes red? Do you miss your missing boss?" Tony touched his beard awkwardly and spoke first. "I'm happy," the white woman replied with red eyes. "I don't have to look for a job anymore." "Yeah, your vacation is over," Tony joked. Looking at the white woman's expression, he was a little scared, so he took the lead and walked towards his car. When Tony entered the car, he immediately noticed the yellow boy in the back seat. He was about 17 or 18 years old. Although his face was immature, he was very handsome. He would definitely be a heartthrob in the future. However, there was one thing that made Tony very dissatisfied. "Zhanglong, wake up, hey, wake up." Tony pushed Zhanglong with his intact left hand. "Can you wipe your saliva?" Zhanglong, who was awakened by Tony, looked around a little dazedly, as if he was not awake yet. Looking at Tony's disgusted expression, he blinked his eyes, as if he was brewing something, until he yawned and stretched at the same time. "Comfortable." This action made Tony raise his eyebrows, and the limit of his patience seemed to be about to be broken. "Well, Tony, don't be like this." Before Tony exploded, Zhanglong finally spoke. "It's hard to protect you. I haven't had a good sleep for a long time." Hearing the boy's words, Tony's mouth twitched involuntarily. He opened his mouth, but in the end he didn't say anything. "I really have to thank the young man in front of me. In the past 2 months, he has been with me and provided me with a lot of help in that dark cave." This is the roundabout tactic that Zhanglong wants to use. Tony is a man with a sharp tongue, but he knows how to repay. Based on this character, Zhanglong found Tony. His address was not difficult to find, at least for Zhanglong. After all, he had personally announced his address in Iron and Steel No. 3 Middle School, and he had paid the price of a villa for it. After finding Tony, Zhanglong didn't even go in. After all, he was not on Jarvis' visitor list, and Zhanglong was not prepared to meet Tony immediately. He handed Jarvis a letter and left a message for Jarvis. "Jarvis, please tell Tony that I have a design drawing of a miniature arc reactor. I hope he can finish reading this letter, and then I will show up on my own. Tell him not to look for me." The design drawings of the so-called miniature arc reactor are of course fake. This technology has not yet appeared in Zhanglan's world. It was just an excuse to arouse Tony's interest, with the ultimate goal of getting him to read the letter. There weren't many words in the letter. The gist was that Zhanglong had found out through some channels that Tony would be attacked in the near future, and he would appear in time to protect Tony's life, and the commission was a condition. As for the conditions and details of the attack, they were not written on the paper. Tony just treated it as a prank at the time and casually checked Zhanglan's appearance. But Zhanglong, who had been prepared, would not show his true appearance. He was a person who could transform. His model was Brother Hu, so Tony naturally could not find anything. After that, Zhanglong, who had been keeping an eye on the movements of Tony's private plane, disguised himself as a co-pilot and followed Tony to Afghanistan when he went to Afghanistan. As for why he was paying attention to the movements of Tony's plane instead of Tony's movements, it was simple. He couldn't find out. Tony's flight schedule was much simpler. After all, his website had already begun to grow in size, and he even set up a small working group. Fortunately, he had a good hacker among his employees. After Tony finished experimenting with the weapon, Zhanglong killed an English-speaking robber, then used the transformation technique to transform himself into a robber and lurked nearby, witnessing Tony being knocked unconscious by his own weapon. Coincidentally, the missile was actually launched by Zhanglong, who was disguised as a robber, and now he shot it out with his own hands. Did he accidentally become Iron Man's ideological mentor? The reason why he didn't prevent this tragedy was that he couldn't do anything about the environment at that time. After all, he was just a scumbag who could release 20 level ninjutsu. With so many guns and ammunition at the scene, he could have run away by himself, but Tony can't make things worse. And most importantly, would Tony still be the same Iron Man if he hadn't been hurt by his own weapons? Will his mind become enlightened? No one knows. So Zhanglong followed the original plot and lurked around Tony for 2 months, creating the impression that he was the one who saved Tony and trying his best to help Tony. Tony also asked Zhang Long in confusion. Why didn't he just ask for help from outside? The military would rescue him. Zhang Lan's answer at the time was simple. Do you want me to notify the military? Tony was silent. Hope? No, he didn't. As a self-proclaimed genius, he couldn't be a kid who asked his parents for help after losing a fight. And he already had his own plan. This plan was well implemented in the movie, but Tony didn't know this, so Zhang Long was very happy to get some favorability. Tools are needed to forge steel armor, and Tony cannot ask the robbers for many of the tools he wishes. However, Zhang Long can give them to Tony as a favor by mixing them with the original materials. With sufficient tools, the original 3 months of work were unexpectedly shortened to 2 months. As for whether the robbers would find out, Zhang Long, who possessed the art of transformation, could transform into any robber at will. The premise is that the robber must be able to speak English, otherwise he will be exposed. Zhang Long will not pretend to be a robber for more than a week. He will always use various requirements to participate in activities, then cleverly die in battle, kill another one, and disguise himself as him. The only pity is that Ethan died and failed to rescue him. On the last night when Tony was about to take action, Zhang Long participated in an event and escaped from the gangster's den, and found the right time to reveal Tony's location to Rode. The contact information was naturally given by Tony. In this way, he perfectly gained a lot of favorability in front of Tony. Between life and death, the 2 people who accompanied Tony, Ethan was already dead, so Zhang Long, who risked his life to rescue Tony, was naturally regarded as a confidant. Where are we going, sir? The driver said. Hogan, to the hospital. Pepper responded from the passenger seat. No, I'm not going. Tony interrupted. Pepper, I'm not going to the hospital. Tony, you have to go to the hospital to get your body checked. I said I don't want to go. Don't force me to go to the hospital. I've been locked up for 2 months. Tony refused directly. I only want to do 2 things now. One is... Before Tony could finish his speech, the boy who had been forgotten by Tony suddenly reached out his hand in front of Tony, holding a hamburger in his palm. Sir, is this the cheeseburger you ordered? Zhang Lan's voice sounded in time. Tony smacked his lips a little speechless, paused for a second, and then naturally picked up the cheeseburger with his intact left hand and said to Pepper that he needed to take care of the second thing. Pepper, I still need. Hogan, go to the company. Our press conference is about to begin. Tony was interrupted by Zhang Long again. I have already notified all major media, using your account. Tony's account was naturally the one Tony gave to Zhang Long to notify Rode. The driver, called Hogan, did not know Zhang Long. So he did not start the car directly, but looked at Tony, and when he saw Tony nod helplessly, he started the car. How did you know? Tony asked. Know what? Do you mean the attack? Or did Pepper think you were going to find a woman when you came back? Zhang Long answered irrelevantly, and what he said made Pepper blush. Tony. Pepper in the front row spoke in a panic. Who is this? I'm sorry, I don't know him. As Tony's personal assistant, she needed to know everyone Tony knew, and she was not trying to change the subject. Zhang Long, a Chinese American. Well, he contributed 12 to my escape this time. Tony introduced the 2 to each other. Long, this is Pepper, my assistant. Lan, nice to meet you. Pepper politely turned around in the front row and wanted to shake hands with Zhang Long, but Tony directly grabbed her hand. Long doesn't like women, so I'll just shake your hand. Is this tolerable? Of course not. Pepper, this trip was pretty good. I've been with Tony for 2 months, and I found that when he sleeps at night, he always calls out a name in his dreams, and that name is Pepper. Although Tony covered his mouth with his hands clumsily, the appearance of the word pay was already very obvious. However, Tony was still a little unprepared and was a little panicked. Hey, man, there's no need to change the conditions you mentioned before, right? Tony threatened. Before coming back, Zhang Long had already told Tony his request. Well, can I change it now? Zhang Long raised his eyebrows and glanced at Pepper. My request is that you let Pepper be my assistant. How about that? I will give Pepper 10 times the salary. This sentence was naturally meant to tease Tony. After all, he couldn't afford such a high salary. Pepper, who was sitting in the front row, was also tense, staring at Tony closely in the rearview mirror. She also wanted to know the answer. No, you are such a scoundrel. This condition is absolutely not acceptable. Tony reacted fiercely. The one you had before was pretty good, I agreed. Tony was excited. He saw the mockery on Zhang Lan's lips and Hogan grinning in the front row. He couldn't see Pepper's mouth because he was sitting behind her. But he could see from the rearview mirror that Pepper's eyebrows were raised, and she must be happy. Sir, we're here. Hogan interrupted at the right time to relieve Tony's embarrassment. Indeed, They had arrived at the press conference and saw an old man with a white beard knocking on the window outside. It was Obadiah Stam, who planned the kidnapping of Tony. Obadiah opened the car door for Tony personally, hugged Tony, who got out of the car, greeted him warmly and showed concern for Tony's health. It didn't look like he wanted Tony to die at all. After a brief greeting with Obadiah, Tony introduced Zhang Long and Obadiah to each other. "Oh, Long, thank you so much for saving Tony," Obadiah said loudly and exaggeratedly. "You saved Stark Industries, you know that. This is just like saving me. After I die, I will not be ashamed of Howard. Is this a guilty conscience, and is he starting to play the emotional card?" Zhang Long didn't look enthusiastic. He simply shook hands with Obadiah and began to ask Tony if it was time to enter the venue. For the sake of the plot, Zhang Long has not yet told Tony Obadiah's true identity, but this does not mean that Zhang Long can wear a hypocritical mask and seek benefits from the tiger. This was not his style. He didn't want to be so tired. But Obadiah didn't care about Zhang Lan's indifference. At least his expression didn't show that he didn't care. As a shrewd man, controlling emotions is a basic skill for him. He laughed it off with Tony and walked into the press conference room. In the press conference hall, Zhang Long did not steal the show, but stood quietly beside Pepper. He needed to get to know someone. "Mass Potts, Mr. Zhang, hello." Coulson's calm voice sounded. "What's up?" Pepper responded politely. "Can I have a word with you?" Coulson asked politely. "I'm not needed for the press conference right now, but I want to take a look." Pepper treated Coulson as a reporter. "I'm not a reporter, I'm Agent Coulson, representing the Strategic Homeland Defense Attack and Logistics Support Agency." A classic sentence was reproduced. Coulson handed a business card to Zhang Long and Pepper respectively. "Wow!" Pepper exclaimed in a low voice, "That's a tongue twister. We are also working on this problem. The Department of Defense, FBI, and CIA have all contacted us. We are an independent department." Coulson interrupted Pepper. "Our functions are more centralized. We want to hear the details of Mr. Stark's escape." "I'll arrange it, okay." Pepper was practicing Tai Chi. "Thank you." Coulson thanked her politely, then turned to Zhang Long. "So, Mr. Zhang, are you free now?" Zhang Long looked at Coulson's signature serious expression, then turned around to look at Tony and the others who were already sitting on the ground. "Coulson," Zhang Long said, "you shouldn't be busy, right? I think there will be a good show to watch. Why don't we watch it first before leaving?" "As you wish," Coulson replied politely. "Don't vote for this book. The new book Naruto, A Fake God has been released. Please support it by collecting and recommending it." Chapter 4 Recharge. RMB player Zhang Long watched Tony talking big with interest. Tony was talking about his feelings during his 2-month trip to the cave, and after laying the groundwork for the story, he dropped the bombshell. "I understand, I realize it." Tony stood up from the floor and walked to the microphone. "In addition to manufacturing weapons, I can contribute more to the world. Therefore, I have decided to close the Stark Industries weapons department, effective immediately." As soon as these words were spoken, the reporters who had not yet reacted and were sitting on the ground were suddenly ejected. They even forgot to ask professional questions and were extremely surprised. The old fox Obadiah reacted very quickly, stood up, patted Tony on the shoulder, pushed him away from the microphone, and laughed. "Okay, everyone has news. Our focus today is that Tony is back safely and..." But who would care about Obadiah's official answer? Naturally, everyone went after Tony. Seeing that the fun was over, Zhang Long glanced at Coulson and Pepper, who were also obviously extremely surprised, and smiled knowingly. "Pepper, are you surprised?" Zhang Long joked to Pepper. "Do you like Tony more?" "Ah, yes, you're right." Before Pepper could react, she agreed to Zhang Long. When she realized that her answer was ambiguous, Zhang Long had already called Coulson and walked to the living room. "He's my boss," Pepper whispered, not knowing who she was talking to, or maybe she was just talking to herself. On the other side, Zhang Long, who was teasing Pepper, waited for Coulson to finish reporting the incident before starting to talk about the topic. "So, Coulson, what do you want to know?" "Mr. Zhang, is it okay to call you this? You Chinese always put the last name first, as far as I remember." "Of course, you have a good memory. Relatively speaking, I prefer you to call me Long Long, or Long. Just like you, Zhang Long glanced at the business card in his hand. Strategic Homeland Defense Attack and Logistics Support Agency. Shield. Shield? How about the name Shield? This is a good name. We will consider it. Even though Coulson is very professional, he still can't keep up with the scope of Long Lan's words. "So, Zhang Long, the intelligence we received is that you returned to New York from Afghanistan one day before Tony, and you took one of Tony's private planes. But there is no record of you going abroad. What do you think about this?" Coulson went straight to the point. Ah, is that venomous dark so tight-lipped? Zhang Long was a little surprised and blurted out subconsciously, then realized that this was Tony covering for him, so he didn't say much. Well, I was on the same plane as Tony when I went there. But there was no registration record of you on that plane at that time. We asked Colonel Rhodes, and he didn't see you either. Coulson naturally didn't believe it. Then there's nothing I can do. I swear I'm telling the truth. Zhang Long shrugged, indicating that Rhodes, who didn't know how to transform, naturally couldn't see him. Well, Long, can you tell me why you came back before Tony? And how much do you know about the attack on Tony? I completed my mission, so I came back. Zhang Long answered as a matter of course. As for Tony's matter, why don't you ask him? I almost suffocated because of him just now. Long, I hope you can cooperate with our work. Coulson said that what Zhang Long said was not worth a penny. But that's all I know. Zhang Long grinned with his big white teeth, and a faint shining reflection could be seen. If that's the case, then thank you Mr. Zhang for your cooperation. Coulson saw that Zhang Long was not cooperating, and because of Tony's relationship, he had to give up, but his address became much more stiff. Then I won't bother you anymore. After that, after getting a signal from Zhang Long, Coulson pushed the door open and left. What a polite agent. He is indeed the man who was evaluated as the agent template by Baidu. After going out, the first person he saw was Hogan, Tony's white bodyguard. In his previous life, he was the director of Iron Man 1. Tony asked him to wait for Zhang Long here and invited Zhang Long to go to Tony's villa. The first time he went there, he was stopped outside the villa. Hi, Jarvis, we meet again. Zhang Long smiled at the camera when he arrived outside the villa. He knew Jarvis could see him. It is worth mentioning that Zhang Lan's appearance now is the same as when he first came to the villa. He has changed into another appearance due to the transformation technique. The consumption of the transformation technique is mainly when releasing the ninjutsu. If one appearance is maintained, the consumption is very small. Zhang Lan's usual chakra recovery is completely sufficient to support it. Zhang Long decided to use this appearance to contact superheroes temporarily. His other true appearance was to be an ordinary person and not want to have any contact with anyone. The model Zhang Long transformed into was a male star he liked very much before, Brother Who. As for his name, his legal identity in the United States is Long Parker, but in this appearance, he continues to use his real name, Zhang Long. Welcome, Mr. Zhang from China. Jarvis' unique electronic voice rang out, and then the door opened directly, and Hogan drove into the villa. In the lobby, Zhang Long only saw Pepper, a little Pepper. She was on the phone, and from what she was explaining, it seemed to be related to Tony's remarks. Tony, I don't know how he found such a considerate Pepper. Pepper, how big are your hands? Tony's voice suddenly rang out from a fixed tablet on the bar. What? Pepper just hung up the phone and looked at her palm. Long is here too. Do you want to come up to see him? Long is here too? Hi, Long, that's great that you're here too. Can you calm down? I'm in some trouble. Tony was very happy to hear that Zhang Long was here too, and he invited Zhang Long. Pepper was obviously a little surprised that Zhang Long would be allowed to go to Tony's own basement. That was Tony's private laboratory, and even Obade was not allowed to enter. Pepper, just go down. Believe me, Tony needs you more. Zhang Long said that he did not want to ruin the opportunity for Tony and Pepper to get closer. Hey, Lan. I haven't hung up yet. Tony's voice came. Now. It's not appropriate for Pepper to see this. Before he finished speaking, Zhang Long hung up. Zhang Long seemed to have completed a trivial task. He picked up an apple from the side and took a bite. Well, other people's food is just good. If we don't go down, Tony might die. Seeing that Pepper was still hesitating, Zhang Long gestured at his chest a few times, which made Pepper's face tighten and she jogged down. Zhang Long could only help Tony up to this point. He walked around the hall, where there were many high-tech products. Zhang Long had only seen them in a movie 17 years ago, and now seeing them in real life made him very curious. While studying something, Pepper apparently forgot to close the door in a hurry. From time to time, screams and Tony's fake cries of pain came from the basement. Zhang Long was also enjoying it. Not long after, Tony and the other person came up together. When Zhang Long looked over, Pepper was shaking off Tony's hand in panic. Tony is my boss, you know. Pepper was a little incoherent. Zhang Long just smiled in understanding and didn't say much. Pepper smiled and ran away with the documents. What? You haven't confessed yet? Zhang Long said to Tony. Before in the cave, Tony had talked to him about his feelings for Pepper. Why? Tony asked back, don't you think the ambiguity before establishing a relationship is wonderful? Besides, she looks pretty cute now. Well, If you think so and not because you are embarrassed, okay, I believe it. Zhang Lang had already seen through Tony's mentality. Hey, let's not talk about this. I've already communicated your request. Tony quickly changed the subject. I'll have Hogan take you there in a moment. The little inventor is already making preparations for the launch. I've helped you get an identity to be his assistant. After a pause, he continued, this is equipment that cost me nearly $50 million US. Can you tell me why you must go? Space is not fun. That's right. Zhang Lan's purpose in saving the country in this roundabout way was to get Tony to help him board the spaceship of Reed Richard, also known as Mr. Fantastic in the Fantastic Four the Rubber Man.
As the richest man in the United States and the owner of the country's #1 weapons processing factory, Tony undoubtedly has this ability. Want to know? You can go with us. Zhang Lan made an invitation. After all, there is no harm in going up and being washed by the energy storm. Tony refused directly, saying that he needed to improve his iron suit in the next period of time, which he named the Mark series of iron armor. In this regard, Zhang Lan could only say that it was not him who suffered. Tony, as the CEO of such a large company, was anxious for this space trip. He could see Zhang Lan's obvious behavior, but he refused to let him go. He even dragged Zhang Lan down to the basement to discuss the concept of Mark II with him. One Malawian kwacha was the lump of steel that had led him out of the robber's den. Even though it looked ugly, its usefulness was unquestionable. Now the leader of the robbers over there was collecting its fragments. As for the issue of confidentiality, on the one hand, the completion of one Malawian kwacha was witnessed by Zhang Lan, and he was the one who delivered the materials, and on the other hand, it was Tony's intuition. His intuition told him that Zhang Lan had no ill will towards him. Tony's original plan was just to tease Zhang Lan. He couldn't understand it anyway, so he waited for Zhang Lan's patience to run out before making a request to him. It has nothing to do with face or conspiracy. Tony just simply wants to see Zhang Lan beg him. However, the actual development once again surprised Tony. Although Zhang Lan knew nothing about mechanical structure, he actually proposed more precise values than Tony's original settings in terms of appearance, system weapon ratio, and some flight data. What a joke. Zhang Lan has watched the Iron Man movie series. Later, he translated subtitles for a while. In order to translate more accurately, he went back and briefly read some Iron Man comics. He doesn't understand the technology, but he has a grasp of the appearance and concept of the future Tony Mark N1. As a result, the chat lasted from 11 o'clock in the morning to 10 o'clock in the evening. As a chakra practitioner, Zhang Lan was not under much pressure, but Tony, an ordinary person, finally couldn't stand it anymore and announced that he would treat Zhang Lan to a meal. Upon hearing this, Zhang Lan just looked at Tony with a smile, neither refusing nor leaving. He just looked at Tony and didn't say a word no matter what Tony said. Okay, I'll make an appointment with that young scientist, Red Richard. Let's have a midnight snack together. As for why you're late, I'll take care of it. In the end, Tony was still the one who was in the wrong and said that he should take the blame. Where are we going to eat? Seeing that he had achieved his goal, Zhang Lan decided to stop while he was ahead. Afterwards, Zhang Lan successfully met Red in a Chinese restaurant. It was unknown how Tony managed to get a fanatical scientist who was about to carry out his scientific research plan to meet up at 11 o'clock in the evening. You know, Red's passion for science was so great that just before he married Susan, played by the sexy goddess Jessica Alba, he was still repairing the positioning equipment needed by the military. Afterwards, Zhang Lan realized why Tony was called a genius. Although he was an expert in mechanical weapons, he could talk about everything with Red, and every word he said made sense even when talking about biological genes. Is Red Richard a genius? There's no doubt about it. In the movie, Red is set as a genius scientist with low emotional intelligence. When a genius meets another genius, the sparks that fly are no less than those between good friends. Zhang Lan did not interrupt, but listened silently with his ears and kept chewing with his mouth. He maintained the transformation technique for a whole day and consumed a lot of physical energy. Finally, with all three parties happy, the time for going into space was set, which was 3 days later. Zhang Lan was also very excited. Finally, his golden finger worked. Although it was a little unreliable, a golden finger was still a golden finger. It was always much faster than upgrading by himself. He was also looking forward to the adult gift pack for completing the task. After all, the word big meant it was much better than the novice gift pack, right? Well, I think so, right? New York University. A university named after New York City is a recognition of its status. It is a world-class private research university consisting of 18 colleges and institutes. It was established in 1831 and has a history of more than 100 years. As an entrepreneurial man who owns the #1 literature website in the U.S., Zhonglong Literature Network, he also self-created the games Power Struggle, Two Broke Girls, and Heroes, which has been made into a TV series and is now airing all over the United States. With all these achievements and his far-leading college entrance examination scores, Zhonglong attracted almost all the famous schools in the United States to call Zhonglang's legal guardian, Uncle Ben, for admissions. The reason why Zhonglong chose New York University was, firstly, because it was close to home, and secondly, and mainly because Harry Osborn and Peter Parker were admitted to the Department of Biology at New York University. At the beginning of the story, Zhonglong had not yet realized the specialness of the family that adopted him. Later, when little Peter, the young Spider-Man, was sent to Mr. and Mrs. Ben's home by Peter's parents, Zhonglong realized that the future Spider-Man seemed to have become his younger brother. Peter Parker is 3 months younger than Zhonglong. Zhonglong observed the Spider-Man in his time and space for a long time and finally determined that it was the amazing Spider-Man. Naturally, Zhonglong, who went to and from school with Peter, got to know Harry Osborn, the first Green Goblin in the future. Afterwards, Zhonglong subtly influenced Harry, and now Harry is no longer the weak character in the movie. After his father fell ill, he is now one of the helmsmen of Oscorp, even though he was a 17-year-old kid. Damn it, why didn't you give me a shadow clone jutsu? The clone jutsu is nothing compared to it, Zhonglong was studying in the library of New York University, biting his pencil, feeling very distressed. The university courses were too difficult. After all, he had only copied the finished products of the original world. It was a bit difficult to learn an industry from scratch. Hi, Lan. A boy poked his head out from behind Zhonglong and glanced at Lan's textbook. Wow, you've already started preparing for the course. You're worthy of being the top student among our 3 musketeers. Where did you go for internship during holidays? Osborn? Peter, can you tidy up your bird's nest? Also, have you made any progress with Gwen recently? Zhonglong joked. The boy in front of him is Peter Parker, the future Spider-Man, and now Zhonglang's good friend. The world is turning, and Gwen is also at New York University. Speaking of Gwen, the future superhero Spider-Man is very shy, and he laughed awkwardly a few times, but did not answer. What? Haven't you confessed yet? Or are you going to give it to Harry? Zhonglong had an incredulous tone, but because they were in the library, his voice was very low, so it was a little out of tune, and it sounded particularly teasing. No, Peter reacted so loudly that he even forgot he was in the library. I won't let Gwen leave me. A crisp cough came from the table opposite Zhonglong. This is a library. Keep your voice down. The person who spoke was a white girl with her big eyes half covered by her blonde bangs. She was staring at Peter, who had just lost his voice, and her little face was slightly red. Peter was also very obedient, sitting upright and reading a book. Haha. A devilish laugh came from Zhonglong beside him. Lon, you knew that Gwen was on the other side all along, right? Peter said viciously. Gwen. Zhonglong did not answer Peter, but spoke to Gwen across from him. Peter said he has 2 tickets for the premiere of the upcoming movie Superman. He asked if you would like to go with him. Unfortunately, I'm very busy that day and may not be available. Zhonglang's words made Peter nervous, and he pricked up his ears to hear Gwen's answer. Peter? Is it true? Gwen's words were full of surprise. Is it the Superman written by Zhonglong on the Zhonglong Literature Network? The person in front of Peter Gwen at this time was naturally the real Blue Parker. He was very happy to hear that Gwen admired him. I'd of course, yes, that one. Gwen, are you free to come over? Peter had to look up when he heard that, and responded to Gwen in panic, not daring to look at Gwen with his nervous eyes. Wow, this is amazing. I definitely won't miss it. I've been looking for tickets for the premiere for a long time, but haven't been able to get them. How did you get them? That's really amazing. Gwen leaned over and whispered excitedly. Oh yes, it's hard to get. Tickets? Yes, I bought them, don't worry. Peter's heart tightened. How did he get them? But he still agreed. Okay, that's settled then. Gwen happily picked up the book and walked out of the library. Lon, I'm leaving first. And, Peter, you got the book the wrong way around. The last sentence made Peter panic and turn the book in his hand. Lon, where do I get the premiere ticket? How can I explain to Gwen if you're like this? Peter laughed foolishly for a few times before realizing that he didn't have a ticket. Don't worry. Have you forgotten who founded the Zhonglong Literature Network? Zhonglong comforted Peter. Let's go back to the dormitory. Harry will treat us to lunch together at noon. Okay, I'll leave it to you. Peter was relieved. The future Spider-Man looks a little silly. After Peter finished speaking, he picked up his camera and went out. He saw Gwen sitting at the long table in the school reading a book, which made Peter pick up the camera and take a few pictures. Eat, eat, eat. On the other side, a group of students gathered together and made a noise. Peter couldn't help but walk over. Seeing this, Zhonglun hurried to follow him. Peter was his younger brother now, and he couldn't let Eugene Fleischer bully him. The beginning of the Amazing Spider-Man has also begun. Tomorrow is the day when Red goes to space, and the Fantastic Four will also start. And the future Iron Man Tony is studying his armor at home. With the data provided by Zhonglun, it feels that the progress will be much faster. Why? It feels like a party is about to start. Today is the day when Zhonglun and Red have an appointment to go to the sky. Zhonglun arrived at the Space Launch Agency early and is changing into the uniforms of the Fantastic Four in the movie, which are made of artificial fiber. In mathematics, there are variables and constants. Simply put, variables refer to changeable factors, while constants naturally refer to unchangeable factors. Zhonglun was not sure whether the birth of the Fantastic Four in the movie was solely due to the energy storm or whether there were other inducing reasons. What Zhonglun could do was to restore the constants as much as possible, such as Victor's space shield and the current synthetic fiber clothes. As for the variables, the number of people going up can still be changed. After all, there's plenty of energy. Saw the Lan. Red greeted Zhonglun. Because I don't have the ownership and patent rights of this project, I can't give you the information of this project. Tony conquered Red because Zhonglun needed university project practice and a lot of Stark high-end equipment. To the honest man Red, he felt bad that he had taken so many things from others, even more than Victor's $25 million US, but could only accompany him on a flight. Red, you don't have to care about these. You've already given me everything I want, right? Zhonglun said that he didn't care. He really didn't care. After this energy storm, Victor's companies all went bankrupt. Where did the profits come from? Zhonglun was ready to take the biggest profit. Reed obviously thought that Zhonglun was comforting him and was about to say something, but was interrupted by a farce. Captain, here we go. A loud voice sounded. Ben, who was packing his luggage, turned around and stood at attention reflexively. His expression was serious, and his attitude was very serious. But what greeted him was the flash of a camera. The person taking the photo is a young man wearing the same tights as Zhonglun. Digital camera, 264 memory stick, 59. The expression of the former tough commander who is depressed because of becoming a subordinate. Priceless, such a frivolous opening line is naturally the future Human Torch Johnny. Ben walked towards Johnny with anger on his face and suddenly stretched out his hand to Johnny, which scared Johnny so much that he reflexively shrank his head. However, the expected attack did not come, but Ben zipped up Johnny's collar. Haha, thank you, you're so nice. Johnny raised his head and cooperated, his tone very proud. I can handle this spaceship. I can also handle this ambitious yellow-haired boy. Ben said very seriously, turning around and walking towards the closet. But I don't know if I should fly or dance the swan dance when I put on this dress. As he spoke, Ben took out a synthetic fiber tights from a closet. Indeed, it was a tights like the one Captain America wore. Zhonglun would not have worn it if it wasn't for the fact that it could be transformed by the energy storm in space. I mean, who the hell designed this? Ben continued to complain. It was Victor, outside the fitting room. A beautiful woman took over the conversation. She was wearing a tight-fitting dress, and the zipper of her neckline was not pulled up, revealing a deep ravine. With her beautiful face and graceful body, she was simply the incarnation of a sexy goddess. This artificial fiber is like the second layer of skin of the human body and can adapt to the different needs of the human body. The goddess said as she walked towards the crowd, but her eyes always fell on Reed intentionally or unintentionally. Such a charming fairy must be the future Invisible Woman Susan. Red also walked towards Susan involuntarily, sighing. Wow, that's great. Susan smiled even more when she heard that. She looked at Red with admiration, but Red continued to say, I've been studying materials made of self-regulating, unstable molecules. Obviously, the previous sentence was not a compliment to Susan, which made Susan put away her bright smile and look at Ben silently. This scientific genius with a negative EQ. This was the common thought of everyone present. Well, hello, Zhonglun. Susan turned the topic to Zhonglun and elegantly extended her left hand. I am the head of the genetic research department of this investment company, Susan. Nice to meet you, Susan. Zhang also shook hands with the goddess of his previous life with a little excitement. Red often mentioned you to me, beautiful lady, but he himself doesn't seem to realize what he has. As he spoke, Zhang glanced at Reed, who was still studying the man-made fiber, with an ambiguous smile on his face. I don't know why the sexy goddess likes this silly boy. Is it true that silly people have good fortune? Thank you. Obviously, these words touched Susan's heart, and her favorability towards Zhang increased a lot. After saying hello, Susan gave one of the space suits in her hand to Ben and threw the other one directly into Red's arms when she passed by him. His confused expression made Zhang, who was standing beside him, couldn't help laughing. After the farce, it was time to board the plane. As far as current technology was concerned, manned spaceflight technology was very advanced, and there would be no crisis, so the process was very simple. However, Zhang did not expect that he would feel a little airsick when he saw the whole picture of the Earth for the first time. Moreover, it was his first time riding a rocket, and Zhang said that he was a little uncomfortable with the space environment. Even when docking with the space station and landing on the space station, Zhang was still pale. With the help of Red, he walked into the space station. Johnny saw it and couldn't help but teasing, "Hey, little guy, look." Zhang followed Johnny's finger and looked out the window. He could see a corner of the Earth. The white atmosphere was dotted with blue water. The scenery was very beautiful, and then Zhang retched, and his whole body went limp like a noodle, hanging on Red's body. This made Susan glare at Johnny, and Johnny smiled awkwardly and jogged after Ben in front of him. Is he okay? Susan walked forward with a frown, obviously concerned about Zhang's situation. Susan, it's okay. Red, don't worry about me. You have more important things to do. Zhang's weak voice sounded, and he looked at the beautiful Susan. He felt a little better, but he no longer dared to look out the window. Okay, then sit here and take a rest. Reed helped Zhang to sit down by the aisle. As they were talking, they had already entered the space station, which was the space station with a protective shield, although it could not protect against the attack of the energy storm. From here we can monitor the approach of clouds and conduct observation experiments, Susan said, pointing at the space shield. Is this safe? Ben was most concerned about the question. The protective shield on the space station should be able to protect everyone's safety. Red answered uncertainly. Should? Ben grasped the key words keenly. He turned around and looked at Zhang, who was pale. He suddenly had an ominous premonition. What's wrong with you, Ben? I'm getting old and a little paranoid? A rebellious man interrupted. Naturally, the only one who could stay in this space station was Victor, the future big boss. Let's start moving the test subjects. Get your work clothes ready, Ben, Reed said, changing the subject. Victor, who was standing by, watched this scene with great interest and couldn't help but say, I see you're still doing these heavy tasks. Maybe you should be in the lab. Field work is never suitable for you. Ben was very unhappy to hear this, and he couldn't help but turn back and said to Victor, he commands, and I do it, understand? That'll keep you busy. Victor couldn't help but sneer at what he said and directly played to his home advantage. If it's okay, Susan and I have something to talk about in private. Reed looked a little uncomfortable after hearing this, but he had no choice but to say, of course, and then turned and left. At this time, Victor noticed Zhang, who was slumped beside him, with an even weirder look on his face. Little assistant, are you afraid of heights? Victor was not sure. Where did Red find the assistant? This is not your business, Victor. Zhang rested for a while, felt better, and stood up reluctantly. Victor, I'm not Red. You'll be busy with the next thing. After all, Zhang was not really an assistant. He gave a meaningful warning and then walked outside. After all, this space shield was not as useful as he imagined, and he came here just for the energy storm. As he passed by Susan, he whispered, Victor will propose to you, but I believe Red will stop Victor. Then he ignored Susan's reaction and walked to the lounge outside, his legs still a little weak. In the lounge, Red was also busy preparing for the work. There was only one door separating the control room and the lounge. Lon, I don't understand why you came here. What can you do in this state? No, I don't need to do anything. You'll know in a moment. It won't take long. Zhang licked his tongue and looked at an alloy wall, as if he could see through him. It's as simple as taking a shower. Red didn't understand what was going on, but he was busy with his work, so he ignored Zhang. Meanwhile, Johnny and Ben were discussing the possibility of Susan and Red's rekindling of their old love, but they didn't know that Victor was already thinking about Susan and preparing to propose to her. Red, who was guarding the instrument, finally found something wrong. He operated the instrument to recalculate the arrival time of the energy storm, and the result was there are still 9 minutes and 51 seconds until the storm hits. That's impossible. Red said in disbelief. It should be 7 hours. In the space station, Victor held a gift box in his hand, which contained all the rings for the proposal. Consider my promotion. I'm about to say 4 words that will change my life. Victor said affectionately. He realized that Susan seemed to have no feelings for Red, and he had to force Susan to make a choice. As long as he said those 4 words. The cloud is speeding up. Red's voice suddenly interrupted. It will come in minutes, not hours. This sudden change frightened Victor so much that he retracted his hand holding the ring and looked helplessly at Susan, who was looking surprised. Victor, we have to stop. Red didn't seem to have the intention to ruin other people's good deeds. Red, calm down. We came all the way here. We can't panic just because of a small problem. Victor took the opportunity to teach him a lesson. Close the protective shield. But Ben is still outside. Red said seriously. Then bring him in. Victor commanded impatiently. We are here for a mission. Hurry up. Ben, who was working outside, also saw the energy storm coming from afar, which illuminated the surrounding dark universe a lot. It turned out that it had bad intentions. Ben, go back, Johnny, who had been arguing with Ben, shouted. At this time, the energy storm had already touched the space station, and Zhonglun could feel the violent vibration. I can go back, guys, Ben said desperately. Jump over. At the critical moment, Johnny was unusually calm. This is the only way now. He jumped towards the hatch with reckless intent. But soon after he jumped, the place where he was standing was ravaged by the energy storm that followed. At this time, Victor, who was in the space station, also began to close the protective shield. The protection range of the protective shield is not large. It is just an observation tower. Susan argued with him, and the touching feeling she had when Victor proposed to her just now disappeared in an instant. She ran out of the protective shield alone. What are you going to do? I can't help them. What can you do? At least I tried. Susan ran out without looking back. Victor hesitated for only a moment, then resolutely pressed the button to close the protective shield. There were so many women. He could find another one. On the other side, Ben also entered the cabin at the critical moment. Johnny, who had been arguing with him, cooperated very well and closed the cabin door just as Ben entered. Without this protective filter, no one knows whether one can survive if directly exposed to the energy storm. Before they could breathe a sigh of relief, the energy storm ignored the steel and iron structures of the space station and shot straight through, passing over everyone's bodies. Only a small part of it remained in their bodies, but most of it penetrated out again and continued to move forward. The energy storm washed over them like waves, one after another, causing everyone to faint. There was only one exception, and that was Zhonglun. He was extremely pale, and his entire body was filled with raging bright yellow light. The light that approached Zhonglun seemed to have disappeared out of thin air and had been inexplicably absorbed before entering Zhonglun's body. In this gorgeous energy storm, a path was left unattended. Zhonglun didn't take it seriously. He stared at one spot where only he could see a group of numbers jumping around. That was a system task that had never jumped around in all these years, a golden finger that was almost forgotten. Efforts before adulthood. Please charge the system before the host reaches legal age to meet the system startup conditions. Current completion, 0-100 current completion, 70-100 current completion, 14,100 current completion rate, 21,100 ding. Congratulations to the host for completing the task efforts before adulthood. The reward has been issued. Please check it. Ding! The system is restarting. Please wait. While the system was restarting, the inexplicable attraction of the system also disappeared. The raging energy storm instantly submerged Zhonglun. Due to the passive attraction of the system before, Zhonglun was exposed to much more energy than the other 5 people. Ding! The system is turned on. Absorbable energy detected. Energy absorbing. The sound of the system was like a rallying horn. The energy storms that had originally passed by Zhonglun from a distance were attracted and rushed towards Zhonglun, taking root in Zhonglun's body in large numbers. The feeling of being baptized by the energy storm is not uncomfortable. It feels like being soaked in sea water for a long time and then jumping into the sky. Although he could no longer breathe through his nose, his cells seemed to have been suffocating for a long time. They greedily absorbed the energy that entered Zhonglun's body. However, only a small part of it was absorbed. Most of it was still trying to pass through the body like Susan and the other 4 people, but it disappeared instantly the moment it left Zhonglan's body. This was absorbed by the system. After hearing this, Zhonglan finally closed his eyes with peace of mind. He had wanted to sleep for a long time, and it was really comfortable. When Zhonglan woke up again, he was already lying in a separate room. He looked at the surrounding facilities and thought it was the high-end sanatorium that appeared in the movie. He blinked, but didn't move and just closed his eyes. He still needed to understand the system that had just been activated. Thinking of this, Zhonglan tried to call the system with his mind. Hello? No response. Did they not understand English? Is my fellow villager here? Get up, fellow villager. There was no response. Did he need a special command? Open sesame? Pineapple, jackfruit? Still no response. Taishang Laojun, please hurry up and give the order. Buddha Tathagata, Guaning Bodhisattva, Jesus Christ. Still no response. FC Kami. Zhonglan was devastated. Could it be that the system shut down due to lack of energy when he was unconscious? Ding! The system has started. The host has a task reward that has not been claimed yet. Please claim it in time. Just as Zhonglan was muttering in his heart, the rigid voice of the system suddenly popped up in his mind. Well, how do I start you? After waiting for a long time, there was still no response. Zhonglan thought about it and changed his words. System, how do I activate you? Ding! The host can call up the system interface by silently saying system. Shit! Zhonglan was devastated. Do you believe I could flip the table? It turned out to be so simple. System, open the interface. Zhonglan said silently. Zhonglan originally had his eyes closed, and there was darkness in front of him. As Zhonglan silently recited in his heart, an interface suddenly appeared in front of him. How to say it? An interface that couldn't be simpler. From top to bottom, there are personal panel to query host data, task system tasks, and task rewards will be released again. Mysterious shop, you can use rule fragments to open the redemption rights and redeem items of corresponding levels. Achievement system, you can get achievements and rewards by completing designated tasks. More exciting, please stay tuned. Advertising. The rest is easy to understand, except for the fifth item, more exciting. Please stay tuned. Zhonglan was very curious about what it meant. Thinking of this, Zhonglan focused his attention on this option. Ding, the host's authority is insufficient. Please work hard to upgrade. More exciting things, please look forward to it. I just turned on the computer. It won't be considered as a level 1 account, right? I clearly recharged the energy. Zhonglan saw that this was fruitless. The task options were still flashing, which made Zhonglan focus on the task system. Then a small hand appeared and clicked on the task system. Then the other options disappeared and appeared. Main quest must be completed. Side quest optional. Emergency quest randomly released. Short time limit. High difficulty. High reward. There were 3 options, and the main story option was flashing. Zhonglan continued to click on it with his mind hand. Why did Zhonglan feel like he was playing a mobile game with a 3-cent investment, where you have to pay first and then try it out? Does it feel like a computer version of a board game? After clicking on the main line, no branches appeared. Only a pre-adult effort appeared, shining brightly. Zhonglan followed suit and continued to click. Ding! Congratulations to the host for completing the efforts before adulthood mission. YN, accept the mission? Yes. Zhonglan suppressed his inexplicable emotions and clicked the yes option again. Ding! The rewards are being distributed. Congratulations to the host. You have won a random draw in each category 1. Yes, no to draw? Yes. Zhonglan's eyebrows twitched at this time. Programmer who developed this system, come out here. I promise I won't beat you to death. This player experience is really bad. The system's big roulette wheel is activated. Host, please draw the lottery manually. After the system prompt, all the text disappeared, and a super large roulette wheel appeared in Zhonglan's mind. But the roulette wheel was blank without a single option. System, what's going on? There's nothing going on here. Why should I transfer anything? Zhonglan said that if he had any questions, he could just ask the system. Host, please understand. The system didn't buy it and directly choked Zhonglan back with one sentence. Zhonglan felt that his temper was seriously provoked. Unfortunately, this so-called system was invisible and intangible, which really made him angry. However, no matter how angry he was, he still had to get the reward, so Zhonglan could only figure out on his own. Soon he discovered that when he clicked on the pointer with his mind, several options would appear. The current lottery opportunities are as follows. Bloodline limit 1 ninjutsu, 1 taijutsu, 1 jinjutsu, 1. Special 1. Zhonglan tried to click on the blood limit that he was most interested in, and immediately all the options disappeared, and words slowly appeared on the spaces on the big turntable. Sharingan Steel Release, Ice Release, Magnetic Release would release Byakugan Red Eyes Corpse Vein. There are many types, among which the Sharingan that Zhonglan has always liked is also among them, as well as the powerful Wood Release and Corpse Vein. Zhonglan, who was already a little impatient, just used his mind to pull the turntable and gently turned it. Immediately, the whole turntable started to spin like a windmill. Zhonglan watched the turntable spinning eagerly. There was no other way. He had his eyes closed. This thing was projected directly into his consciousness. He could only watch. After all, there was no power source, and the big turntable slowly stopped after spinning for a long time. At this time, it was passing over the corpse vein and slowly moving towards a Sharingan that it had long admired. Hey, almost. Yes, go in. Good job. Zhonglan watched the pointer turn into Sharingan, and then paused between Sharingan and Death Ritual. He almost jumped out of the bed. Just when he thought it was a foregone conclusion, the system prompt sounded. Ding! Congratulations to the host for obtaining the Ceremony of Death. Incomplete, what the hell? Isn't it the Sharingan? It turned out that when Zhonglan was excited, the pointer moved a little bit and turned into the Death Ritual remaining. But what about the remaining? If you don't understand, ask the system. Ding! It is detected that some systems are missing, and some system rewards may be incomplete. Please upgrade hard and trigger the main task to collect scattered systems. Zhonglan saw the system's explanation and turned the table over. Do you believe it? It's a 30-cent interface, but it's also an unfinished product? System, which part of the death ritual remaining is missing? Zhonglan finally asked weakly. It would be nice if he could obtain the immortal ability in the anime. Name, Death Ritual Incomplete Category, Forbidden Technique Rank. Introduction. It can make the host have the property of immortality, but the host cannot recover on its own, so please be careful not to lose body parts. Cost. None note. Death Ritual is divided into two parts, Immortality and Ritual. It was originally in S-level Forbidden Skill. Due to the loss of some systems, it currently only has the Immortality ability, so it has been downgraded to a level. From now on, the name of this skill in the system will appear as Immortality after reading the system introduction. Zhonglan felt the deep malice coming from the system. Well, just keep drawing. It is better to suffer a short pain than a long one. Given the nature of the system, it is estimated that it will not produce anything good. So, we might as well cut the Gordian knot and choose to draw all the items randomly. Suddenly, the big turntable split into 4 parts. All started to rotate, and then stopped at the same time. Ding! Congratulations to the host for winning the Shadow Clone Technique in the Ninjutsu Lottery. Ding! Congratulations to the host for winning the 8 Gates of Ninjutsu Lotus Flower in the Taijutsu Lottery. Ding! Congratulations to the host for winning the Illusion in the Illusion Lottery. Ding! Congratulations to the host for winning the Guardian of Sand in the Special Lottery. Ding! Because the host completed the task ahead of schedule, I will reward him with 1 talent skill and randomly add 1 level feature to it. 5 consecutive system prompt sounds rang out. Zhonglan was stunned at first. Then he counted carefully and found that there were indeed 5. You know what? This system was really generous. The Shadow Clone Technique is a cheating artifact, a simplified version of Prince Naruto's signature skill. The 8 Gates of Ninjutsu is even more needless to say. It is the strongest physical technique that almost made Guy kick out a big ending. And even Madara had to admit that Guy was the strongest in physical techniques. As for the illusion, Zhonglan had no impression of it. The Sand Guardian seemed to be a blessing from Gaara's mother before her death. The sand defense that had been automatically protecting Gaara was the love of Gaara's mother. As for the last one, which is a random draw across all categories and the ability to add features, it sounds pretty cool. But Zhonglan thought that this was not possible, right? Wouldn't the system's level classification be reversed? System, from low to high, list the levels. Zhonglan asked tentatively. Ding. The system will include but not be limited to ninjutsu, taijutsu, jinjutsu, bloodline limits, and equipment, which are divided into E, D, C, B, A, S, SS, and SSS. There are 8 levels, with E being the lowest and SSS being the highest. The system actually answered this time. Zhonglan couldn't help but be delighted by the system's answer. Doesn't this mean that the system directly gave him a 6th level reward? Well, system, you did a good job this time. Let's start the talent lottery. Zhonglan praised the system with great satisfaction. As Zhonglan gave the order, What appeared on the system this time was not a big roulette wheel, but a big slot machine with 3 options and a big pull lever next to it. Zhang didn't even need the system to prompt him. He just pulled the lever and the slot machine started working. The 3 options in the middle also scrolled rapidly. With his eyesight, he was dazzled and couldn't see anything clearly. In the end, he just waited for it to stop by itself. After waiting for a long time, the slot machine was still spinning happily, with no sign of stopping. Did it need to be stopped manually? Zhang thought so, and controlled his mind and pulled the lever again. The 3 options that were running fast immediately began to slow down until the 3 options appeared. Uzumaki Naruto's avatar physical skills. This made Zhang a little confused. Shouldn't there be 3 of the same? How to calculate it now? Ding, congratulations to the host for drawing a copy of Uzumaki Naruto Learns Taijutsu for the first time. The reward is undergoing level characteristic enhancement. Please wait. Well, the first ninjutsu that the eldest prince learned, I think it should be pretty good. The first ninjutsu he learned was the multiple shadow clone technique. I already have it. No, it could be the 3-body technique. Zhang was a bit confused and thinking about all sorts of things when suddenly he thought a keyword. Physical skills. Damn it, the first physical technique Naruto is learning is not the one taught by Kakashi. Zhang had a bad premonition, and it was a very strong one. Ding, the strengthening has been completed. Congratulations to the host for extracting the 1,000-year secret of Konoha Taijutsu 1,000 years of killing. System I. This time Zhang couldn't hold it in any longer. He jumped up from the bed and blurted out a barrage of curses in Mandarin Chinese, mixed with some Minnan dialect from his hometown in his previous life. He cursed for a full 10 minutes without repeating himself. After a long time, Zhang finally finished venting his anger, and then he angrily asked the system to display the information of this millennium mystery of physical skills. Name, 1,000 years of killing category, physical skills level. The effect, make a tiger seal with both hands, launch an attack from behind any person, penetrate their anus with all your strength, causing the opponent's energy circulation to be interrupted, and the duration varies depending on their will. Consumption, a small amount of physical energy features. You will be able to instantly appear behind any enemy in your sight, but the skill cannot be interrupted. Note, due to the enhancement of characteristics, the practicality of this skill is greatly increased, but since it cannot be interrupted, use it with caution. The room fell into silence for a long time. After a long while, Zhang shook his head in frustration. The system's evil taste was really strong. However, this Millennium Kill, with that feature, was a displacement skill. More importantly, it is instant. Just make a tiger seal with your hands. System, what are the other skills? Let's release them together. Name, illusion category, illusion level. The effect, entry-level illusion, can simply implant an illusion into the person being cast. Consumption, chakra 10 note. The success factor is mental strength. Name, shadow clone technique category, ninjutsu rank. The effect can create an independent clone with self-awareness, which will automatically dissolve after receiving damage. After dissolving, all the feelings experienced during the period will be transmitted back to the main body. Cost, divide the caster's chakra equally. Note, due to the quality improvement, this skill will not be automatically canceled when the main body is thinking or unconscious. Name, undeath category, forbidden technique rank. Introduction, it can make the host have the characteristics of physical immortality, but it cannot recover on its own, so please be careful not to lose body parts. Consumption, none. Note, the death god ritual is divided into 2 parts, immortality and ritual. It was originally in level bloodline limit, but was downgraded to a level due to the loss of the ritual part. Name, 8 Gates Lotus category, Taijutsu rank. See introduction. The human body has a self-protection mechanism, so a normal person can only use less than 50 of his physical strength. Chakra also has 8 restrictions, called the 8 Gates. Opening the 8 Gates to release the restrictions will gain extremely powerful strength in a short period of time. This skill is for the lotus flower. It can only be used after the 2nd gate rest gate is opened. Consumption, physical energy. Note, the rapidly expanding power comes at a heavy price. Name, Guardian of Sand category, special passive level. S effect, able to use chakra to manipulate sand. Sand mixed with one's own chakra will automatically defend against all damage that may harm the host. Features, release Gar series ninjutsu, energy reduced by 50. Consumption. None remarks. The host can only manipulate sand with the host chakra. Ding. The reward has been confirmed and has been distributed to the host's storage space. Zhanglan looked at the above skills, and then sadly discovered that the only attack skill available for daily use was the Flevel Millennium Kill. Sand Guardian is a passive skill that only controls sand. He also needs to exchange Gars-related ninjutsu before he can exert his attack power. 8 Gates of Ninjutsu Range. It appeared twice in Naruto and was dissolved both times. It seems so weak. Moreover, this move is self-destructive. Even if he has the immortality ability from the evil gods, ritual hereinafter referred to as immortality, the immortality ability does not provide recovery ability. If you watch anime, you will know that if your head is chopped off, you won't die, but it won't grow back on its own either. If that lasts for a long time, the body's energy will be used up. Won't he still die? As for that illusion, judging from its level rating, it doesn't seem to be that good. The last shadow clone. I thought I could use the eldest prince's human wave tactics, but turned out to be a level shadow clone, not an level multiple shadow clone. If there is only one, this shadow clone that cannot be harmed will have little combat value for Zhanglan now. After all, Zhanglan doesn't have much experience in physical skills, so he's easily hit. And his total chakra capacity is not much either. How can he play if it's divided in half? Can I teach others besides myself? Zhanglan asked doubtfully. Ding. Insufficient authority. Host, please work hard to upgrade. Okay, Zhanglan said that he was annoyed with this system. The storage space provided by the system was very small, only 1 cubic meter in size, and now there were only a few thin cards in it. Following Zhanglan's thoughts, these cards immediately appeared in Zhanglan's hands. The cards are not big, and their styles are very similar to the game cards in the previous life of Yu-Gi-Oh! There is a unified Tai Chi diagram on the back, and the name of the card and its function are introduced on the front with pictures. Zhanglan only took a glance at the picture of the 1,000 years of killing. A yellow-haired child was surrounded by an adult man with his left eye blindfolded. The man made a tiger seal with his hands, bent over, and aimed at his target, the yellow-haired child's anus. Zhanglan seemed to hear Naruto's screams. System, how do I learn? Just eat it. Zhanglan said he was very tired. Ding! Please place the card on the pineal gland. Pineal gland? Isn't that the forehead? It's so mysterious. Zhanglan looked down on the system with disdain and then slapped the stack of cards in his hand directly to his forehead. Ding, congratulations to the host for learning Flevel Taijutsu. 1,000 years of killing, a level illusion. Illusion, level ninjutsu. Shadow clone technique, a level forbidden technique. Death right incomplete, Clevel Taijutsu. 8 gates of ninjutsu lotus flower, level special skill. Guardian of Sand. Following the system's prompts, Zhanglan felt a large amount of information pouring into his mind, including complicated information about the hand seal sequence of ninjutsu, the practice insights of physical skills, and so on. The point is, this information is very much. Not only is it mentally devastating, his body is also undergoing a transformation, making Zhanglan stronger and stronger. Of course, at this time, Zhanglan can only feel more pain. Without a doubt, he once again gloriously fainted. Shortly after Zhanglan fainted, the door of the room was opened and Red came in. He looked at Zhanglan lying on the floor with confusion and seemed a little confused. Just now, didn't the data show that he has woken up? Red was a little confused. After helping Zhanglan to the bed, he called a doctor to give him further examination. The examination process naturally includes blood tests, which are required every 5 hours. This is one of the key points in the key ward. This is where the problem lies. When the doctor wanted to draw blood from Zhanglan again, he made a miraculous discovery. A small pile of sand was floating around Zhanglan's body. When the doctor wanted to draw blood from him, the sand gathered around the needle hole, making it impossible for the needle to touch Zhanglan's skin at all. After Red came over and took a look at this special situation, he immediately realized that this was a mutation caused by radiation in space. His best friend, Ben, was still in a coma. When he woke up again, Zhanglan felt extremely hungry. He opened his eyes and saw a nurse sitting next to him and dozing off. However, he had no interest in this sleeping beauty. All his attention was focused on a small thermos cup next to her. Zhanglan knew that there must be some kind of food like porridge in there, prepared for patients who had been in a long coma to wake up. It had been 3 days since he last woke up. Due to his protection by the sand, no needle could penetrate into Zhanglan's blood vessels, and even the act of feeding him was considered an attack by the sand. Therefore, the hospital had no way to provide nutrition for Zhonglan and could only use the most primitive method, waiting for Zhonglan to wake up. Zhonglan's body is still undergoing transformation. According to his body's self-protection and self-control, he will not be able to wake up before the transformation is completed. Zhonglan, who had just woken up, was extremely weak. He tried hard to lift his body, but failed, so he could only look at the thermos cup with longing. Under Zhonglan's extremely eager eyes, a small amount of sand swept in from all directions, gently lifted up the thermos cup, and slowly flew towards his bed according to Zhonglan's thoughts. What is this? The sand control of the Sand Guardian? It was also the first time for Zhonglan to come into contact with this supernatural phenomenon. He seemed a little confused. With this distraction, the unskilled sand control lost its initiative and passively turned into a protective state, flowing back to Zhonglan's body to protect his safety. Without the sand to support it, the insulated box naturally fell to the ground, making a noise that woke up the sleeping nurse. The young nurse who woke up also realized her negligence. While notifying the doctor, she fed Zhonglan nutritional supplements, which are liquid food in a thermos cup. This time, under Zhonglan's subjective control, the sand did not block him anymore. Zhonglan was able to eat the food smoothly and get nutrition. Not long after Zhonglan woke up, Red, Susan, and Ben rushed into the ward, greeted Zhonglan, and briefly told him what had happened. First of all, Zhonglan had woken up once a day after the energy storm. But because of the system modification, he fell into a coma again and was in a coma for 3 whole days. Ben also woke up yesterday. After hearing the story of how he was almost forced to starve to death because of Shotzi's loyalty to his master, Zhonglan felt more and more that this system was a bit unreliable. Ding! If the host is about to die, the system will provide energy to the host and maintain the host's biological functions. Because Zhonglan's consciousness muttered the keyword system, the system gave an answer. If that's the case, then it's somewhat reliable. Zhonglan nodded, and then realized another problem. System, what do I look like now? My original appearance or the transformation technique? Ding, while the host is unconscious, the transformation technique is maintained by the system with energy supply, so it has not been lifted yet. The system gave good news. Luckily, we weren't exposed. After discussing with everyone, Reed became obsessed with Zhonglan's blood sample and hoped that with Zhonglan's cooperation, he would be able to obtain the blood sample. Zhonglan naturally didn't want to have his blood drawn, so he reluctantly agreed. Then he was relieved to find that he had no way of controlling the sand and issuing the command to give up guarding it. System, what's going on? Why can't I control the sand? If you don't understand, just ask the system. Ding, the defense of the Guardian of Sand is a passive skill. Just like an animal needs to breathe, it is its nature and cannot be changed. After a fruitless attempt, Red could only leave with regret. Susan made an invitation at the right time to go to the restaurant for dinner. Zhonglan readily agreed. But before that, he had some things to deal with. He needed to report to his family that he was safe. Thinking of this, Zhonglan first called home. It was Aunt May who answered the phone. Because he had told Aunt May before that there was a problem with the script of his new movie Superman, and he needed to go to the theater to work for a few days, Aunt May was not surprised that Zhonglan had not contacted his family for 5 days. Olhat, Lan, are you coming back? Aunt May's voice was a little trembling, and she was obviously a little excited. Aunt May, are you okay? Zhonglan asked worriedly. Before Aunt May could answer, a quarrel was heard over the phone. Oh, are you delayed? This was Uncle Ben's voice. Uncle Ben seemed very angry. He rarely scolded people so loudly. Your aunt, my wife, walked through 5 blocks alone at 12 o'clock in the afternoon, the 5 most chaotic blocks in Queens. I can walk back by myself. Aunt May didn't bother to respond to Zhonglan and defended Peter. Don't protect this child. Zhonglan didn't listen to what was said next. He felt that he needed to go back immediately, otherwise something would happen that would cause him lifelong pain. It was Aunt May who saved Zhonglan, and Uncle Ben agreed to adopt him. He lived with this beloved couple for 17 years. As Zhonglan, whose parents were divorced in his previous life, cherished the fatherly love from Uncle Ben very much. Even though he called him Uncle Ben, in Zhonglan's heart, he had already regarded Uncle Ben as his own father. He didn't want to see Uncle Ben die in order to guide Spider-Man to become a superhero. Originally, Zhonglan didn't have to worry about these things happening. After all, Peter only had a long period from gaining Spider-Man's abilities to having a conflict with Uncle Ben and running away from home. So Zhonglan didn't worry that he would not be with Uncle Ben. Who would have thought that the evil system transformation would make Zhang Lan unconscious for 3 days? Zhang Lan pinched the hand seal and released the ninjutsu taught by the system very skillfully. Ninjutsu. Shadow clone technique: create a shadow clone and let it say goodbye to Reed and others. Then jump out of the window yourself. This sanatorium is located on the border of Brooklyn and Queens, not far from home. With Zhang Lan's physical strength and the ability to climb walls using chakra, this is currently the fastest way for him to get to the scene. Uncle Ben, you must not die. Wait for me. Zhang Lan was secretly anxious. He exerted force on his feet and moved forward quickly again, no longer caring about the problem of his identity being exposed. Is this a game? Is this a virtual world? Or is it just a very long dream? Zhang Lan had doubted this before, but now he had no doubt at all, because he could feel the heart-wrenching pain, the pain of having his soul torn apart. Looking at the body of his Uncle Ben in front of him, Peter wailed like an abandoned child. Slowly, Zhang Lan felt his eyes filled with a liquid. He thought it was tears. Was he crying? He didn't want to cry in front of Uncle Ben, so he wiped his eyes with his hand, but found that his hand was stained with a bright layer of blood. Tears of blood. This was Zhang Lan's last memory. Then he felt a sharp pain in his eyes, and he fainted again. Bang! A puff of smoke rose up, and Zhang Lan was really unconscious this time. Without the help of the system, he could no longer maintain the transformation technique, and it was automatically lifted. When the smoke was about to dissipate, a black cloak was draped over Zhang Lan. It was his shadow clone. Zhang Lan had not given the order to directly release the shadow clone before, so he followed. At the last moment when Zhang Lan might be exposed, he covered it up for him. The shadow clone tried hard not to look at Uncle Ben on the ground, glared at Peter, who was immersed in extreme self-blame, and said the last words for Uncle Ben. With great power comes great responsibility. After saying that, he ignored Peter, picked up Zhang Lan, and disappeared in a few jumps. Shortly after the shadow clone left, an ambulance arrived at the scene, and someone called an ambulance for Peter. Unfortunately, the paramedic just shook his head, comforted Peter for a few words, and left. The heart was pierced and breathing stopped. There was no hope of rescue. After the paramedics issued the death notice, Peter, who had been suppressing his emotions, finally could no longer suppress them and screamed in pain. When he woke up again, Zhang Lan felt his eyes were very dry. He blinked hard, hoping to moisten them, but they became even drier. Are you awake? The shadow clone spoke in a very hoarse voice. How is your condition? If there is no problem, I will cancel the clone. I didn't bring my ID card with me. We are now in Tony's villa in New York. Tony is still in the basement of his Los Angeles villa, tinkering with his Iron Man suit. Zhang Lan said nothing, but nodded indifferently. Shadow clone revelation. The shadow clone pinched his hand seal, and with a bang, it turned into a cloud of smoke and quickly dissipated. Zhang Lan, who had been lying on the bed with an indifferent expression, had a small amount of memory information flooding into his mind. Compared with the previous system skill information, it was much less, and he just felt a little mentally exhausted. He shook his head vigorously. With his experience with the system, he quickly got used to it. He quickly browsed the information brought by the shadow clone and understood the whole story of why he was here. He touched his arm indifferently, his expression suddenly clear. Just 3 hours ago, in order to hurry on, he overused the 8 gates in an extremely tired state, and many of his capillaries burst. Now, they have recovered. The blood was washed away by the shadow clone, but the wounds on the skin were healed automatically by the body. The immortal ability emphasized that it had no ability to recover. Shadow clone did not have access to the system, so he could not understand the reason very well, but only had some vague guesses. System, bring up the personal panel. Zhang Lan said silently in his heart, touching his chest, where his heart was beating. He clearly remembered that his heart had exploded along with his capillaries, so it naturally stopped beating. Name, Zan non status, LC chakra, 9494 skill, level, clone technique, substitut technique, transformation technique de level, illusion level, lotus level, shadow clone technique à level, immortality, Celerio passive. Level, guardian of the sand passive, 1000 years of death assess level. Konoha general physical ability. Level combat value. 94 comprehensive evaluation. Insufficient combat skill reserves, 2 low chakra reserves, 2 low combat experience, and 2 low psychological quality. Current mission. None. Current property. Energy points, 31,581 rule fragments. None sure enough. Looking at his attribute panel, Zhonglan found the reason for his body's recovery. He used his mind to check the level cell riot and SS level physical transformation respectively. Name: cell riot passive category, superpower level. Introduction: in non-combat situations, it can speed up cell division and reproduction. The fewer the total number of cells in the body, the faster the cell division and reproduction. Consumption: the upper limit of cell division times. Note: a person's cell division times are limited in his lifetime. Excessive consumption will permanently lose the upper limit of physical strength, and in severe cases, it will lead to cell apoptosis and death. Name: physical transformation category, physical transformation rank, SSS description. Automatically possesses all attribute chakra attributes, and under the right environmental conditions, will awaken any of Konoha's physical qualities. Cost: unknown. Note: as long as conditions permit, the host can even awaken the bloodline of Kagaya Otsutsuki. When Zhonglan saw the skill of Cell Riot, he couldn't help but think of Uncle Wolf's terrifying recovery ability. What a pity. It's a non-combat skill. It will only take effect automatically when you're out of combat or when you're guaranteed to face the enemy without taking any damage. As for the only SS level skill physical transformation, to put it bluntly, it is a potential gift package. Under certain circumstances, it can awaken any bloodline limit of the existing Hokage. Oh, right, resurrection. Zanlan Shutdo. He had to hurry back. He couldn't let anyone cremate his uncle's body. Speaking of resurrection, there were indeed many techniques or bloodlines for resurrecting people in Naruto. Chiyo's reincarnation of the self, Konoha's impure world reincarnation, and the Rinnegan's outer way of reincarnation are all possible. Thinking of this, Zhonglan quickly rushed home. The location chosen by the Shadow Clone before was not far from home. After all, Tony was very rich and had many locations to choose from. Because he wanted to go home, he did not use the transformation technique. In order not to be exposed, he just ran at a speed faster than ordinary people. The police station still needed to collect evidence, so they certainly would not cremate the body so quickly. There was a lot of broken glass on the ground at the door, which was the result of Peter slamming the door and leaving. When I walked into the house, I saw Aunt May sitting in the living room. 2 black policemen were checking something with her. Seeing Aunt May's red eyes, the sadness that had been suppressed could not help but surge up again. There was a small black in each of her eyes, which slowly rotated around the black eyeballs as Zhonglan's emotions exploded. He didn't look at Peter standing there blankly, but walked straight to Aunt May. When Aunt May saw him, she covered her mouth and sobbed again. Zhonglan didn't know how to comfort her, so he could only put his arm around her shoulders and let Aunt May rest her head on his chest. Looking at Aunt May, who was so sad, his heart that had never belonged to this world was finally pulled back from his previous life to the present. Since the past life has passed, why should I cling to it when I don't have too many concerns? At the same time, he secretly swore in his heart that he would never let Aunt May suffer any harm again. Never. If anyone dares to hurt Aunt May, I will never let him off easily. Thinking of this, Zhonglan narrowed his eyes and looked at Peter. Peter was obviously very sad. His eyes were red and swollen. It seemed that he had cried for a long time before, but he couldn't cry in front of Aunt May, so he forced himself not to cry. At this time, Peter was asking the black policeman for a portrait of the robber. The black policeman gave it to Peter with great understanding. It was just a copy, and the original was in the police station. One more thing, he has a star-shaped tattoo on his left wrist. The black policeman kindly reminded. Peter did not respond. He stared blankly at the portrait in his hand, engraving that face firmly in his mind. Ding! Host's emotional fluctuations detected. Match to the corresponding main task. Release the main task. The first battle. The host's emotions need to be released. Hatred needs to be avenged. Defeat Spider-Man. Then find the murderer who killed Ben Parker and take your revenge. This task was in line with Zhonglan's intention, because he was going to do this anyway. He wanted to coax Aunt May to sleep first, but Aunt May had just lost her beloved, so how could she sleep? She held Zhonglan's hand and said some illogical words, all over the place with no pattern at all, just saying whatever she thought of. Seeing this, he took advantage of time to go to the bathroom and created a shadow clone, letting the clone accompany Aunt May, while he went upstairs to challenge her to a fight. Peter's door was locked. Zhonglan knocked on the door. Both he and Peter needed a vent. Aunt May. Peter's voice was trembling. It seemed that he was squatting behind the door. What's the matter? I'm going to sleep. Peter obviously didn't want Aunt May to see him crying. Knock, knock, knock. Jean-Lan didn't say anything, but continued to knock on the door quietly, so as not to disturb Aunt May downstairs. Feeling the determination of the person knocking on the door, Peter opened the door from the inside. His eyes became even more red and swollen, his eyelashes stuck together, and there was a hint of bright light reflected in the corners of his eyes. It's you, Lan, you. Before Peter could finish his words, Jean-Lan grabbed him by the collar and walked towards the window of the room. Lan, let go of your hand. I don't want to hurt you. Peter did not resist. He didn't know about Jean-Lan's cultivation. Jean-Lan had been hiding this from his family. He had just lost his Uncle Ben, and he didn't want to hurt his other two relatives now. Jean-Lan turned a deaf ear to him and pulled Peter to jump out of the window. Peter was a little scared by this action, and he quickly grabbed Jean-Lan's shoulders, not to break free, but to twist his body in the air so that he could be at the bottom. His physical fitness was very strong after the mutation, and he could act as a human air cushion. Peter exerted force with his arms, and was surprised to find that his body did not turn downward as expected. There was a force that counteracted his force. He was so strong that he accidentally pulled off the faucet. Jean-Lan pulled Peter to the ground steadily, ignoring Peter's surprise, and dragged Peter out. Lana, what's going on? Have you been to Oscars too? Peter was a little incoherent, and with a little increase in strength, he finally broke free from Jean-Lan's hand. Jean-Lan remained silent and did not say anything. After Peter broke free, he pointed to the living room and led the way away. Peter turned around and looked towards the living room. Through the window, he could see Aunt May sitting there, and next to her sat Jean-Lan, who had clearly appeared in front of him. Peter suddenly turned around to look at Jean-Lan, who had already walked away. He hesitated for a while, and seeing that Jean-Lan's figure was about to disappear from his sight, he gritted his teeth and chased after him. The more Peter chased, the more surprised he became. It had been a few days since he awakened his spider physique, and he knew how much faster he was than an ordinary person. But he found that the person in front of him was only 60 of his speed. Although not as powerful as him, he was still very scary compared to ordinary people. The two chased each other and came to an abandoned factory. Peter recognized this place as the secret base he and Jean-Lan had when they were young, an abandoned steel smelting plant. Who are you? Why you look exactly like Lan? Peter asked loudly when he saw Jean-Lan finally stopped. You followed me without knowing who I am? Jean-Lan raised his eyebrows in response. Hey, brother, I just don't want you to harass my brother Lan. So I came here to warn you, do you understand? Peter's words made Jean-Lan's heart waver. Now this fight still needs to be fought. The hand seals in the hands are changed, and the fight will start directly. Ninjutsu. Clone technique the next scene made Peter feel a little creepy. It was like a special effect. After a cloud of white smoke quickly faded away, 6 Jean-Lans appeared in front of him. Are you a ghost? Peter was a little scared. After all, he was just an ordinary American boy a few days ago. Jean-Lan did not respond. The 5 clones plus the original body rushed forward and attacked Peter in unison. Although Peter was a little scared, he had a sense of danger and could clearly sense that the other party did not have any obvious hostility towards him, but rather a kind of, grudge. Peter was more agile than Jean-Lan and easily dodged Jean-Lan's straight punch with a flash. He jumped and hung upside down on an iron chain, looking at Jean-Lan, who was running on the wall against gravity, and he became more and more surprised. Hey man, can't you just talk it out? I'm in a bad mood today, and I don't want to hurt you. Peter dodged Jean-Lan's attack while issuing kind warnings. He still didn't want to attack someone who didn't show any ill intentions. Jean-Lan also stopped his actions after hearing this. There was no other way. Peter was much faster than him, and he couldn't hit this guy. System, can you scan Peter's data? Jean-Lan asked the system tentatively. Ding, starting the scanning system. Scanning successful. Data has been released. Name, Peter Parker Spider-Man skills. Danger sense, clever strength enhancement, agility enhancement, reflex enhancement, physical enhancement status. SAD comprehensive ability. C-level combat value. 176 comprehensive evaluation. Agile and responsive, but slightly lacking in strength. Having just awakened, he is still growing stronger, and combat experience is his weak point. It seems that this system still has many functions that I haven't explored yet, Jean-Lan thought. But even if Peter's strength is slightly weaker, he is still much stronger than me. I don't have the combat experience. He scanned Peter's profile, then looked at his skill panel, thinking about tactics. Dude, can you hear me? Peter hung upside down on the iron chain, a position he preferred. I'm really not in the mood to fight you today. How about another day? If you beat me, I'll tell you what you want to know. Really? I'm in a really bad mood today. Physical skills. 1,000 years of killing Zhang directly releases his only displacement skill. Now, he has no long-range attack skills and must get close. He disappeared from Peter's sight in an instant. Peter's newly acquired sense of danger felt his anus tighten. This signal made Peter change color and rush to the ground with his hands and feet. He looked back and saw Zhang with his hands in the shape of a tiger, his arms stretched out and pointed straight forward, with a hint of surprise on his face. It was obvious that he did not expect that Peter could actually dodge his instant 1,000-year kill. This is a bit tricky. At the critical moment, Zhang fingertips touched the edge of Peter's crotch, but unfortunately, he still missed the target. Peter used his hands and feet to run on the iron chain, and even now he still felt a slight chill in his anus. What's your trick? It's so dirty and despicable. Don't force me, or I will. Fuck. Peter warned again, and Zhang suddenly disappeared from his sight. At the same time, the feeling of tightness in his anus came again. He didn't care to warn, and he thrust his hips forward, with his entire abdomen pressed against the iron chain. He pushed his feet with all his strength and shot to the ground like an arrow, landing with his hands, and narrowly avoided the danger of being opened. Peter shook his arms, which were numb from the shock. The impact of his full-strength kick towards the ground was very great. He looked at Zhang with strange eyes as he rushed towards him without saying a word. He was already a little annoyed. Peter didn't dodge this time. Since this man didn't listen to the warning, he would teach him a severe lesson. He also needed a vent. The two men fought together. The angry Peter had a lot of strength in his hands. He didn't have any moves, he just punched Zhang. There was no way. He didn't dare to use his agility to dodge. Peter noticed that every time the opponent used that strange trick, he had to form a tiger seal with his hands before disappearing. Therefore, Peter's attacks were continuous, and he couldn't let Zhang hands be free. Originally, Peter thought that he was stronger than Zhang and that he could beat Zhang down even if he gave up his advantage of agility. However, the more he fought, the worse Peter felt. The two men had been boxing face to face for nearly a minute, blocking each other's punches no less than 50 times. Both of Peter's hands turned an abnormal red-purple color. But looking at Zhang, his arms were still as smooth as before, without a single color. The reason was that every time Peter attacked, he would hit a group of moving sand, which took away most of the power, and Zhang also concentrated a chakra on the hit part, which could effectively defend against the attack. No, this guy is weird. He can withstand more blows than me. Peter's mind was clear. After blocking Zhang attack again, he immediately jumped back, creating some distance, and pressed his entire back against the wall to prevent Zhang 1,000-year kill. Zhang did not pursue him. He just fought without any skill, which was a good way to vent his emotions. Next, he should think about how to defeat Peter, which is the requirement of the main task. It seems that this is the only thing I can do. Zhang Fawen Haope. He still had too few attack skills. 8 gates of ninjutsu rest, gate open veins popped up on his face, and the blue chakra on his arms became more intense. At the same time, light blue chakra slowly emerged from his legs. Body full of strength. Feeling the changes in his body, this time his body was in normal state. He felt that he could maintain this state for at most 3 minutes, and then his body would not be able to bear it and he would bleed. The body is still too weak. We can't delay any longer. We need to make a quick decision and use the lotus flower. The lotus flower can only be used when the 8 gates of ninjutsu rest gate is activated, and it is a clever physical technique. After formulating the tactics, Zhang exerted his strength and rushed towards Peter like lightning. Peter, who was standing by, got a finger-thick iron chain from somewhere and watched Zhang rushing towards him with full alertness. But he had no intention of taking action at all, because... Bang! With a dull sound, Zhang covered his head and squatted by the wall not far from Peter. The speed was too fast, and his reflexes could not keep up, so he hit the wall. Peter had obviously calculated this result. He swung the chain in his hand to wrap around Zhang, trying to tie up this lost lamb. When Zhang woke up from the dizziness, he found himself tied up with chains by Peter. His hands and feet were unable to move. He tried to stand up, but Peter at the other end of the chain pulled hard, knocking Zhang to the ground. Hey, what do we do now? Peter did not press on with his victory. He felt he had already won. Zhang who was lying on the ground, raised his head with his teeth bared. It was more painful for him to see his face hit the ground than to hit the wall, his handsome face. Giving Peter a cold smile, Zhang raised his hands. His hands were already clasped together, forming a tiger seal that made Peter suddenly change color. Without thinking, before Zhang disappeared, Peter leaped up, twisted his body in the air, and kicked behind him. He had to teach this shameless guy a lesson. There was no expected sense of impact. It turned out that Zhang did use a skill, but it was a substitute technique, and the target was a small ball of sand that had just been secretly moved under Peter. Only objects of equal mass, with one's own chakra, can be used for substitution. So when Peter made a beautiful roundhouse kick, Zhang appeared under Peter. He was seen floating in the air in an upside-down position, with his hands slightly bent and pressed on the ground. He exerted force from his waist and kicked Peter in the stomach like a rabbit kick, kicking Peter's falling body higher. Zhang, who was affected by the relative impact force of Peter, pressed his arms down to a limit. Rich chakra filled his arms, and as a lot of blood spurted out of his arms, Zhang shot towards Peter like a slingshot. His powerful legs were also filled with a lot of chakra. Every time Peter was about to fall, he would be kicked into the sky again. The speed exploded in an instant, and the sand flow that originally surrounded Zhang could not catch up and was left behind. The iron chain that was originally in Peter's hand was already in Zhang's hand. Although it seemed like a long process, this series of actions only took place within a second. Peter was hit in the abdomen without any leverage in the air, which directly dispersed his strength. Then, the continuous kicks one after another made it impossible for Peter to gather any strength to fight back. When Peter was brought by Zhang to 7 meters above the ground, the power that Zhang had just burst out from his arms was finally exhausted. He waved the chain in his arm, intending to use it as a bandage to wrap around Peter, and then perform the second half of the lotus art, which was to help Peter rotate and then land perfectly on his head. However, the previous violent burst allowed Zhang to jump so high, but the price was extremely high. The spurting blood made the blood vessels in the entire arm bear a large amount of chakra and burst after exerting the maximum force. This resulted in the waving arms being unable to perfectly control the direction of the chain and failing to tie up Peter, giving him time to react and struggling to kick Zhang away from him. Without the buffer of the sand flow, Peter's kick landed directly on Zhang's stomach. Peter's feeling told him that if he didn't kick Zhang away, he might die, really die. Even the strengthened Peter did not dare to land on his head in a spiral at a height of 7 meters, almost the height of 2 floors. After all, he had only awakened his abilities a few days ago, and had not yet reached his peak. 2 sounds of falling objects were heard one after another. Peter covered his stomach and lay weakly on the ground. Even if he avoided the main damage in the second half, the previous series of combos were not in vain. As the attacker, Zhang was even more miserable. His hands and feet were already stained with blood, even though he used chakra to protect his important parts and block Peter's kick. However, the chakra had already been exhausted. Without any buffering action and chakra protection, Zhang crashed to the ground. The impact force perfectly attacked his body and then hit his internal organs through the bones. He spat out a mouthful of blood mixed with some internal organ fragments. The acceleration brought by Peter's kick was also not weak. The ability of immortality once again worked wonders. Even though he was physically dead, he was still able to move. Zhang was very thankful that his arm was injured and that Peter kicked him. Otherwise, the smooth combo might have caused Zhang to lose 2 relatives in one day. I underestimated the effect of this move. It didn't have much effect when it appeared several times in the comics. I thought it was just a small move. Damn it, even with this move, I still couldn't defeat Peter. No wonder it's rated C with a combat value of 196. The 2 of them lay on the ground silently to recover their strength, and Peter also became quiet for a rare moment. Peter's injuries were not serious. He just felt a little weak. On the other hand, Zhang's internal organs were vomited out, and it was obvious that he was more seriously injured. The first to stand up was Peter, who had recovered. He stood up from the ground, holding his stomach, took a look at Zhang's miserable state, frowned, and looked a little tangled. "Can you tell me who you are now? I'm in a really bad mood right now." After all, Peter is still a kind American superhero in the future, and killing people casually is not his style. "Who do you think I can be?" Zhang asked Peter. He needed to delay for a while, so that the passive of Cell Riot could take effect. Now he felt a piercing, tearing sensation every time he moved, and he couldn't continue fighting at all. Not dying doesn't mean there's no pain. On the contrary, because I can't die or pass out, the pain is even more memorable. It's not my brother anyway. Peter didn't realize Zhang Lan's intention and frowned. If you don't say anything, you're going to die. You're spitting bubbles. Hearing Peter speak, he couldn't help but raise his eyes. What does it mean to blow bubbles? Isn't Spider-Man a funny guy only when he puts on the mask? The bubbles here refer to his flesh fragments. SHHHHHH. Yeah. Do you want to call an ambulance for me? You can also call the police. The action of raising the eyebrow seemed to involve the wound, and Zhang Lan couldn't help but gasp in pain. Peter was obviously moved by Zhang Lan's suggestion and reached into his pocket to take out his cell phone. I think we should call the police. After all, you are a violent person. Zhang Lan did not stop him. Peter would definitely not say his own name. From the fact that few people knew Spider-Man's identity, it could be seen that he did not like being put on the big stage. Hey, is this the police station? I found a violent guy here, in the abandoned steel plant on street in Queens. He's here. Who beat him? Come quickly, I'm hanging up first. While Peter was diverting his attention, Zhang Lan had secretly intertwined his hands behind his back, silently waiting for the opportunity. Zhang Lan secretly made hand seals with his hands behind his back and did not launch an attack immediately. The facts were before him. With a combat value of less than 100, he was obviously no match for Spider-Man, whose combat value was 176. Peter has just awakened. If a period of time passes, his power will definitely be much higher, and he will be even more unable to defeat him by then. So he must seize this opportunity. Peter, do you know why I look so much like the Lan you mentioned? Zhang Lan suddenly spoke. Well, are you going to say anything? Peter said, as if he was listening attentively. Zhang Lan did not speak, but grinned, revealing a mouthful of blood-red teeth, and then disappeared from Peter's sight. Peter remembered Zhang Lan's insidiousness deeply with his body. Without thinking, he flew forward, ready to avoid Zhang Lan's wretched Millennium kill. After Peter pounced, he rolled on the ground and turned his back. Zhang Lan was there making a wretched pose, but his movements were obviously too slow and he failed to catch up with Peter. You are such a hateful person, you. Peter didn't finish his words. He felt a sharp pain in his anus. His legs went weak and he fell to the ground, holding his anus. And just behind where Peter was originally standing, there was another Zhang Lan maintaining the same posture as the Zhang Lan opposite him. Peter didn't understand. The other party was clearly right in front of him. So why did he appear from behind and attack him? His sense of danger was indeed Zhang Lan's target, and it was very strong, but he did not see Zhang Lan disappear, so he hesitated for a moment. It was at this moment that he failed to escape the destruction of Zhang Lan's Millennium Killer. Hiss, hiss, it hurts so much. Peter covered his anus in pain. This kind of physical torture is really too vicious. And the most vicious is the spiritual torture. A boy was stabbed in the anus by another boy. Anyone would be traumatized, right? Zhang Lan stood up straight and smiled brightly. He originally wanted to touch his hair to ease the embarrassment, but when he stretched out his hand halfway, he realized what he had just done and quickly put his hand down. To be honest, the scene just now was not surprising. What Peter saw after he stood up was just an illusion of the clone technique, and Zhang Lan was hiding behind a machine behind the clone. He put his hands behind his back deliberately for Peter to see, in order to make him think that Zhang Lan was going to attack him with a 1,000 years kill. Then it's easy. When the other lurking clone reaches behind Peter, the fallen clone makes a gesture to use 1,000 years kill, and then cancels this clone. The original body also locks Peter with 1,000 years kill at the same time, which will give him the effect that 1,000 years kill misses. Then, when the danger perception had not yet dissipated, he used the 1,000 years kill. It really was a sure hit. The above series are all based on the fact that the clone technique is an illusion and does no harm. So you can walk behind Peter without being detected by his danger perception. The connection between the several skills must also be in place, and the timing must be accurate. Of course, the most important reason is that Peter doesn't understand Zhang Lan's skills. Looking at Peter still rolling on the ground, Zhang Lan touched his, but with a bit of fear, and asked the system whether he had completed the task of defeating Spider-Man. Beep, Spider-Man is currently unable to continue fighting. Condition 1 has been met. Please continue to work hard to complete Condition 2. After getting confirmation from the system, Zhang Lan finally breathed a sigh of relief. Hearing the sirens coming from afar, he hurried over to help Peter away. You go away, hiss. What else do you want to do? Hiss Fuck. Peter felt Zhonglan approaching, and he rolled out of fear, rolling 1 meter away. Maybe his wound was squeezed during the rolling, and he gasped several times in pain. Okay, Spider-Man. I'm Lon Parker, your brother. The police are coming, so you should go home first. He helplessly called out the nickname he had given Peter, a name only Peter, Harry, and Zhonglan knew. How do you know this name? Are you really Lon? Peter was very surprised. When he realized that Zhonglan had no ill intentions, he stood up with the help of Zhonglan and limped away. Shortly after the two men left, the sound of police sirens was getting closer and closer. When they arrived at the scene, they found that there was no one there except for some signs of a fight. The police thought they had made a wasted trip and got in the car to leave. The police car did not drive away. Instead, a slightly older policeman got out from the driver's seat and looked around. The young policeman also got out reluctantly to check the scene together, until the two of them stopped at the place where Zhonglan hit the wall, looking at the blurry face shape created by Zhonglan with a little horror. Because Aunt May and the shadow clone were still in the living room, the two could not walk through the living room and could only climb the wall. Under the window of Peter's room, Peter covered his buttocks and insisted that Zhonglan go up first. He did not dare to let Zhonglan have his back. Zhonglan shrugged helplessly, with chakra attached to his feet, and walked along the wall step by step to the window in violation of gravity. Peter, however, was not so cool. He climbed up the wall on all fours. He had no choice but to choose the safest option as he was injured. Lon, what's going on? No, you were also bitten by that spider, right? But you're different from me, you. As soon as he sat down, Peter started asking a series of questions like a cannonball. Fortunately, he controlled his voice and did not disturb Aunt May downstairs. Peter, you asked too many questions. Zhonglan interrupted Peter's bombardment. Let me think about how to explain it to you. Why don't you tell me about your story first? After all, he has been Peter's older brother for nearly 10 years, and as a man of two lives, he has naturally always held a dominant position. Peter did not hold a grudge against Zhonglan because of the fight just now. He took a breath of cold air, and he definitely did not hold a grudge. Then Peter simply repeated what happened during his mutation, which was roughly the same as Zhonglan's memory. Some small details were not in the movie and did not affect the overall situation. Zhonglan wrote down all the plots that needed to be remembered. Although there was a risk of losing them, it was better than forgetting them. After 17 years, not everyone can have a photographic memory. After all, the system is already very unreliable, so it is better to rely more on yourself. That's about it. Lon, it's your turn now. Peter has briefly finished telling his experience. Peter, I have a lot of questions and I can tell you, but I need to make it clear that Aunt May cannot know about our affairs. I don't want to make her sad anymore. Otherwise, I will beat you like I did today. Zhonglan gave a preventive shot first. You're just playing tricks. Peter retorted with a look of pain on his face. We all know that you can't beat me. It's just that your moves are too tricky. You have too little combat experience, which is your shortcoming. Also, you're not familiar with my abilities, so you lost to me. Zhonglan analyzed to Peter rationally. We'll talk about this later. I'll take it as you agreeing to my proposal. So listen to me next. Uncle May picked me up from the trash can at the door. For some special reasons, I can remember my identity and know something about the cultivation methods over there. This is a training system that allows ordinary people to defeat strong people. We call it ninja, not Japanese ninja. Don't confuse them. The foundation of ninja is chakra, a kind of energy that combines body and mind. If chakra is turned into electricity, it becomes a battery. With special hand seals, special skills can be released. They have many names, such as ninjutsu, taijutsu, jinjutsu, etc. Zhonglan narrated slowly that Peter was his only relative in this world and was also a supernatural person. Zhonglan also needed someone to talk to. He called his otherworldly world a place in his memory, and then directly pushed the system's problems to his brain, saying that under certain conditions, he could memorize a skill's hand-seal combination from his body, thereby gaining a new skill. As for the rest, even his own pseudo-prophetic ability was told to Peter. That bloody man that day was you? Did you rush back because you saw Uncle Ben? Him, in a prophecy? After listening to it, Peter also recalled the person who said to him that day, "With great power comes great responsibility." The one at the beginning was me, using a similar ability to the previous one, which is physical skills. The one that appeared later was a shadow clone. He is physical, but he will disappear once he is hurt. That is the one who turned into 6 of you tonight? Peter's eyes widened. Isn't this cheating? I thought the other 5 of you were phantoms. I couldn't sense their existence. No, that's a low-level ninjutsu called clone technique. It's just a phantom. Zhang denied. I can only create one shadow clone now. Can your shadow clone use your perverted physical skills? Peter asked. Well, logically, it shouldn't be possible, but I'm special, so maybe I can. Zhang thought about it seriously. As you can see, my body is special, and I can move even if my heart stops. After hearing Zhang answer, Peter's face flushed, and he held it in for a long time, and finally he could only squeeze out one sentence. You are a rogue. These skills are awesome. Please teach me. Zhang did not answer Peter immediately, but asked the system. System, can I teach skills to others? Ding. As long as the learner can produce chakra, he can use the corresponding skills. As long as? System, can't everyone learn chakra? Zhang had never thought about teaching others chakra, so he was very confused. Damn. Chakra is a special energy that is a mixture of body cell energy and soul spirit energy. Those who learn chakra must be able to sense cell energy and soul spirit energy, and have a certain degree of control to extract and mix them in order to create chakra. Ordinary people don't have this ability. This time the system spoke for a long time. After Zhang digested its meaning, he understood it. System, to put it simply, only geniuses can create chakra? Yes, that's right. System, don't you think you talk too much nonsense? Zhang was speechless. Ding, this system will do its best to serve the host and try to solve the problem from the root. Zhang listened to this and thought about it carefully. Is this system calling me stupid in a different way? Hey Lan, what are you daydreaming about? Peter interrupted Zhang thoughts and said, Can you teach me? Yes, but whether you can learn it depends on your ability. Zhang decided to give it an experiment. I wonder if it would be different if Spider-Man could use ninjutsu? Zhang patiently explained to Peter the nature of chakra, and just like in a novel, he inserted the chakra into Peter's body along his skin, allowing him to better feel the form of chakra. Afterwards, Peter went to practice chakra for a trial, which would take a long time. Zhang did not return to his room, but stayed in Peter's room. Although Peter looked very interested, Zhang could feel that he was doing this on purpose. After more than 10 years together, he could feel that Peter was still immersed in sadness. He just tried to keep himself busy. He couldn't be depressed. There was still Aunt May who needed him and Zhang to take care of. Sitting in Peter's chair, he closed his eyes and dozed off, but his thoughts drifted to the system. During this period of time, he was either unconscious or had emergencies, and he had not had time to gain a deeper understanding of his golden finger. I guess he is the first one who doesn't take the cheat code seriously. System, open the main panel. Personal panel task, system mysterious shop, achievement system, wealth column. Energy points, 32,154 rule fragments. None system. What is this wealth column? I don't remember it last time. Zhang asked in confusion, and the interface is much more refined. Last time it was just like the 30-cent special effect, but this time, there is a 40-cent special effect. Ding! The system will be updated in real time according to external information and host needs. Update the system? Remember to notify me when the next update is available. Zhang was speechless. He disliked Lei Feng the most. He said good things should be said. Ding! Receiving the command. The new command has been recorded in the system. Zhang nodded with satisfaction and checked the personal attribute panel. Well, it was not bad. The combat power went from 94 to 90. What the hell was this? Not improving, but regressing? System, why has my combat effectiveness decreased? Ding, the Cell Riot superpower has the ability to accelerate cell division, thereby healing wounds, regenerating limbs and organs, etc. But the cost is the number of cell divisions. The number of cell divisions in a lifetime is constant. Accelerated division will inevitably lead to accelerated cell death. Combat effectiveness is a reflection of the host's comprehensive strength, which also includes the number of cell divisions. Therefore, the host's combat effectiveness will be reduced. Fuck, this is such a long paragraph. Let me sort it out. In short, the more serious the injury, the faster the death? Yes, correct. Is there any solution? Zhang asked anxiously. Yes, the host has the property of immortality, and the cells themselves have the ability to recover themselves. They can recover slowly by replenishing energy. However, if the number of cell divisions is exhausted in a short period of time, there is no buffer time, and the host will die directly. Zhang could understand this passage. The first Hokage in Naruto fought a great battle with Madara and died without any damage to his body. That was because his cell division was accelerated during the battle to quickly recover from his injuries. As a result, his injuries were too severe. After a battle, the number of cell divisions was exhausted, and the cells died directly. However, Zhang is different. Although his skill is similar to that of the first generation, it is a non-combat skill. There is no scenario where he would consume energy while fighting and die accidentally. That's awesome. Although my fighting ability is not so good now, my survivability is great. Zhang Lanxing couldn't help but praise himself. Which man doesn't have a heroic dream? Now that his concerns were resolved, Zhang Lan continued to read on. He clicked on the task system, thought about it roughly, and determined the function. Main quest. Quest related to rule fragments branch quest. Optional quests issued based on the current situation emergency. A randomly refreshed task with very attractive rewards. Zhang Lan has only accepted 2 main tasks so far and has not received any other side tasks or emergency tasks. However, the days are long, so there's no need to worry about not seeing them. Zhang Lan glanced at the mysterious shop and gritted his teeth, putting it aside for now. This should be the core of the system, and the good stuff should be left for later. There were no sub-options in the wealth column. Zhang Lan curiously clicked on the energy points and rule fragments. Ding! Energy points. The energy that provides the basic operation of the system. It can also be used as currency to purchase items in the mysterious store. Ding! Rule fragments. Unlock the right to purchase valuable options in the mysterious shop. Energy points are the gold coins in the game. Zhang Lan understands this. As for the rule fragments, Zhang Lan asked a separate system once, and the answer he got was still this short sentence. Zhang Lan, who didn't understand, could only give up for the time being. He would naturally understand it when he entered the mysterious shop. Thinking of this, Zhang Lan couldn't wait to click on the achievement system. Ding! Achievement system. The achievement system is invisible, and rewards are automatically awarded when a specific scene is triggered. Each time an achievement task is completed, 1 cubic meter of storage space can be increased. Fuck the storage space. He had always wondered why the system was so stingy. The storage space was only 1 cubic meter. Now it seemed that the way to increase it was here, but the achievement task was not visible. Angry, flipping the table, unwilling to give up, Zhang Lan clicked the option of more features, please stay tuned again, and got the same reply, please work hard to upgrade. Finally, we have arrived at our core, which is your mysterious shop. With full expectations, we are ready to take a good look at the gifts of the system. Lan, I have mastered my cultivation. Peter's voice suddenly sounded, and Zhang Lan was so scared that he shuddered and opened his eyes. Looking at the slightly excited Peter in silence, Zhang Lan could only close the system interface depressedly and go to check Peter's results. How to know if the cultivation is really successful? Zhang Lan has the simplest and most direct way. System, scan Peter. Ding, scanning. Data updated. Name, Peter Parker Spider-Man skills. Danger sense, clevel. Enhanced strength, enhanced agility, enhanced reflexes, enhanced physique chakra. 4176 status. Mildly sad comprehensive ability. Clevel combat value 176 overall evaluation. Agile and responsive, but slightly lacking in strength. Having just awakened, he is still growing stronger, and combat experience is his only weakness. Looking at Peter's newly appeared chakra column, 1176, means that the upper limit of Peter's body is that it can extract 176 points of chakra, which coincides with his combat power. Zhang Lan, Todd, I want to cry, what should I do? My upper limit is only 94. Zhang Lan felt like crying. It was too depressing. Physically and mentally exhausted, Zhang Lan wailed and fell directly on Peter's bed. He had only one thought at this moment. Where is this? Who am I? What should I do? Hey Lan, you're covered in blood. Don't lie on my bed. Peter came over and wanted to pull Zhang Lan up, but he didn't dare to use force. After all, Zhang Lan was still injured. He sat up with a sullen face, taught Peter the 12 basic seals, and then dragged his tired body back to the room. He needed a good bath. First, I took a simple shower to wash off the blood on my body, and then I lay in a bathtub filled with hot water. My whole body and mind relaxed, and I couldn't help but let out a sigh of relief at the feeling of comfort. I was really exhausted today. I woke up from a coma and rushed on the road. My closest relative, Uncle Ben, died in front of me. In the evening, I had a fight with Peter to vent my anger. Because I had just learned the skills and had not had time to compare them with the real world, I thought that my cousin Lianhua was very ordinary, but she almost killed Peter, who lacked combat experience. The most important thing is that Peter is really a blow. Zhang has been practicing chakra for more than 17 years, but Peter surpassed him in less than 10 minutes. This is really, I'm gonna fuck you, you silly dog. Thinking of this, my spirit, which had been tense all day, slowly relaxed. I couldn't help but slowly close my eyes and fell asleep quietly in the bathtub. I was really too tired. It was the next morning when I woke up again. I was woken up by the shadow clone. Aunt May had been chatting with him until just now, and then she went back to her room to sleep. The freed shadow clone naturally went straight up to find a real body. What time is it? Zhang groggily stroked the still warm water. This bathtub had a constant temperature system that would automatically drain the water and then add hot water. The shadow clone ignored Zhang and directly formed a hand. Shadow clone. Release Zhang, who had just woken up, was still in a daze when a stream of information flooded into his mind, including the drowsiness from not sleeping that night. Coupled with the comfortable water temperature beside him, Zhang couldn't help but yawn loudly. Why do I feel like I slept in vain last night? Zhang shook his head and relied on the last bit of rationality he had left to turn on the cold water button in the bathtub. I saw a small whirlpool in the center of the bathtub, which was draining water. Then a stream of clear water flowed in from all around the bathtub, making Zhang shiver and jump. Damn it, no wonder this shadow clone is classified as a forbidden technique. It's so weird. He thought of Naruto's bug again, and compared to it, his own was simply weak. By the way, was there anything you didn't do last night? Let me think. Forget it, I forgot about it. Zhang always felt that he seemed to have forgotten something important. Splash. She stepped out of the bathtub, washed up, and went out to prepare for breakfast. To her surprise, Peter was already in the restaurant and had prepared breakfast. Morning, Peter. Zhang greeted lazily. Morning, Lon. Peter responded enthusiastically. Aunt May just went to bed. I asked your shadow clone to wake you up. I have learned all the moves you taught me last night, you see. As he spoke, Peter and Zhang demonstrated a basic hand seal. The movements were very smooth. Apart from being not very standard, which would affect the effect of the spell, with the help of chakra, it was already possible to try a simple ninjutsu. I will teach you some a-level ninjutsu later. You could try to learn it then. He responded nonchalantly while biting a sandwich in his mouth. He remembered what it was. This damn Spider-Man seemed to be very talented. Should he pierce his ass again to relieve his anger? Peter, who was happily eating breakfast, felt his anus, which had not yet recovered, tighten, as if something was bothering him. Well, Zhang was just thinking about it, of course. While drinking some milk to moisten his throat, he switched systems and opened the mysterious shop, wanting to check how he could quickly increase his combat effectiveness. Puff! Zhang sprayed the milk in his mouth directly onto Peter opposite him and stood up with a look of frustration on his face. System, come out. I'll beat the shit out of you. Ding! It's detected that the mysterious shop is open for the first time, and the rules are explained. Mysterious shop rules the items that can be exchanged can only be used by those who possess chakra skill cards are only for the host. The store will randomly provide 10 exchange items at 12 a.m. every day and will be refreshed at 12 a.m. the next day. Energy points are the basic unit for system operation and purchase. For some items purchased for the first time, you need the corresponding level of law fragments to unlock the purchase right. Rule fragments can be split into lower-level rule fragments 3, but cannot be synthesized into higher-level fragments. The same item can be purchased multiple times on the same day, with the purchase energy points as the base number the number of purchases on the day. The system level is divided into level. The energy point range required for exchange E, 110 energy points. D, 10,100 energy points. C, 1,001K energy points. B, 1K 3K energy points. A, 3K 1W energy points. S, 1W 5W energy points. SS, 5W 10W energy points. SSS. Insufficient authority. The secret shop currently has the following card category skill card. You can learn card skills after using it. Bloodline card allows the user to possess the bloodline on the card. Only one bloodline card can be used for the same part. Prop card contains all kinds of strange props. There is nothing that the prop card cannot make, only what the host cannot think of. Equipment card. You can get the equipment on the card. When I first saw this rule, I didn't think there was anything wrong with it. As far as energy points are concerned, he has 31,581 energy points, which is enough to exchange for its level card, right? Then he looked at the 10 cards refreshed today, and then he started to complain. The cards in the mysterious shop were arranged very simply, in 2 rows, 5 cards on the top and 5 cards on the bottom, but most of them were dull gray. Skill card, Super Strength A 49.99 Energy Points Bloodline card. Sharingan C1 Magatama 894 Energy Point Skill card. Shadow Neck Binding A 3454 Energy Point Skill card. Heart Decapitation D88 Energy Point Skill card. Human Tank C500 Energy Point Skill card. Desert Float A 4000 Energy Points Item card. Health card E5 Energy Points Skill card. Fire Style Great Fireball Technique C564 Energy Points Bloodline card. Corpse Vein S8759 Energy Points Equipment card. Battle Suit card D. 50 energy points from the number of times the cards appear. We can see that skill cards appear the most frequently, accounting for 6/10, followed by bloodline cards at 2/10, and item cards and the remaining equipment cards at 1/10 each. Zhang Lan's eyes lit up when he saw these 10 cards. He wanted every one of them, especially the Sharingan that he had been longing for. Although it was only one Magatama, it was precisely because of this that it only cost 894 energy points, right? Zhang Lan clicked on the Sharingan card very urgently, wanting to exchange for this bloodline card. But ding, host, please use Clevel Rule Fragments to unlock this option. Zhang Lan. Then the milk spraying incident happened. Peter innocently followed up with the milk spraying and was sprayed with white milk in the face by Zhang Lan. Oh no, God. Peter exclaimed, Lan, what are you doing? I just took a shower. Just now, Peter was still thinking about the inexplicable tightening of his anus. But Zhang Lan on the opposite side sprayed milk, which diverted Peter's attention and made him unable to dodge in time. System, come out. I'll beat the shit out of you. Zhang Lan did not respond to Peter's words, but instead scolded the system. Come on, come out. Don't be shy. I promise to beat the shit out of you. Ding, the system exists deep in the host's soul. In a sense, the host is the embodiment of the system. The implication is that Zhang Lan is the system, and the system is Zhang Lan. Zhang Lan. Oh, don't lie to me. I'm not well educated. System. How do I get that rule fragment? Ding. Complete system tasks. Change the fundamental plot and pay important props to obtain rule fragments of indefinite levels. It's easy to understand that completing system tasks and changing the plot, but what does it mean to pay for important props? Zhang Lan continued to ask. Ding. Obtain items with recycling value and hand them over to the system. The system will decompose the items into fragments of indefinite levels and rules. I see. That is to say, if Zhang Lan obtains Tony's Iron Man suit and then gives it to the system to decompose, he can obtain the fragments of rules. I had no intention of taking Tony's Iron Man suit, but now it seems I have to think of a way. He stroked his chin and thought, thinking about how to trick Tony. Tony, who was developing the Iron Man suit in Los Angeles, suddenly felt like someone was staring at him from behind, but when he turned around, there was no one. He quickly asked Jarvis to turn on all the lights in the house. Just as he was about to continue to understand the system, Zhang Lan felt a chill on his face, as if it was wet by some liquid. Only then did he come to his senses, looking at Peter, who was glaring at him angrily, and smiled guiltily. Peter, if I say I didn't mean it, would you believe me? He defended himself weakly. Of course. I don't believe it. Peter rejected this reason as a matter of course, but then he changed the subject. However, if you can teach me your shadow clone, I can choose to forgive you. Shadow clone? We have to wait a little longer. This technique is not simple. After the accident this morning, Zhang Lan decided to wait a little longer. I will teach you the basics first. You can sense chakra quickly because you already have a certain foundation. Now I'm just digging out your foundation. However, the technique is not certain. It does not mean that you will succeed if you release the hand seals in the correct order. That's indeed the case. Even though Zhang Lan can learn level ninjutsu quickly, that is with the help of the system. If one can perform ninjutsu simply by making hand seals and outputting chakra, then why was it that besides the second Hokage, only the fourth Hokage could learn the Flying Thunder God Jutsu? There is also Rock Lee, a ninja who doesn't even know basic ninjutsu. There must be some conditions, and only after these conditions are met can a ninjutsu be mastered. Of course, Zhang Lan doesn't have to worry about this, because he is a man with a system. The basics are fine, so teach me now. Peter accepted all offers. Looking at the sandwich in his hand, and then at Peter's expectant expression, he sighed and made a difficult decision. Ninjutsu. Shadow clone technique. Peter happily followed the shadow clone, while Zhang Lan wiped the milk on his face and continued with his breakfast, his consciousness having floated back into the system. just like an internet-addicted teenager who plays with his phone while eating. He opened the mysterious shop again, but this time there was no introduction to the rules. He reluctantly skipped the gray and white cards. Now he only had energy but no rule fragments, which was useless. Equipment card, battle suit card, D50 energy points item card. Health recovery card, E5 energy points. These are the only two colored cards. When you click on them, the option of Iseno will appear directly, which seems to be asking whether you want to redeem them. Zhonglun first selected the health recovery card that he was more concerned about and clicked yes, and then a magical scene happened. Nothing happened. System, where's the card I just exchanged? Did you eat it? Zhonglun asked viciously. Ding, it has been sent to the host's storage space. System, next time don't be silent and give me all the relevant information. Zhonglun thinks that it is better to set it to online. Otherwise, it will always switch to offline. What if you miss important messages? Ding, host command detected. Loading the command. Loading completed. Ding, congratulations to the host for gaining recognition from Jody Benstead and gaining 1 energy point. Ding, congratulations to the host for gaining the recognition of Isidore Wedlock and obtaining 1 energy point. Ding, congratulations to the host for gaining Rebecca Sampson's recognition and obtaining 1 energy point. Just after he gave the online command, a ding reminder sounded approximately every 5 seconds, which made Zhonglun very confused. How did these energy points come from? System, how do you get energy points? Zhonglun got to the point. Ding, congratulations to the host for getting the recognition of Likakul and gaining 1 energy point. Ding, taking Flevel ordinary people as the benchmark. Different energy points can be harvested depending on the relationship between the host, and them relationship energy points can be harvested. Stranger 0, Recognition 1, Appreciation 2, Recognition 5, Worship 10, Faith 100. Depending on the level of the person, the energy points provided will also be different. System, set it so that only a single energy income of more than 6 points can trigger a system reminder. Although it is pleasant to hear the reminder sound, the frequent reminders are really annoying. Ding, congratulations to the host for gaining Tort Carson's recognition and obtaining 1 energy point. Ding, host instructions detected. Loading instructions. Loading completed. He nodded with satisfaction. Although the redemption mechanism of this system made people want to flip the table, it was still highly maneuverable. It's like a newly developed mobile game that can be slowly transformed into a game mode that suits the players, and then more players will recharge heavily. As for the recognition of those 1 energy points, Zhonglun knew where they came from after just one thought. Recently, the new version of the movie he wrote is being promoted, and as the creator, he will naturally be recognized by the general public. System, are you trying to get me into the entertainment industry? Zhonglun thought a little depressedly. Are you a celebrity transformed by the system? Ding, fame has nothing to do with the entertainment industry. This system is an original release, not a modification. After the system reminded him, Zhonglun realized that it seemed that in his previous life, the only celebrities that ordinary people could come into contact with were stars. Now think about it. The fans of future superheroes, whether it is Spider-Man or Iron Man, will be calculated based on the global proportion, which can easily surpass ordinary stars. System, if I don't use my real name, but a nickname like Naruto or something like that, would it count as energy points? Zhonglun raised a concern. After all, he plans to use Zhonglun with Brother whose appearance to contact superheroes in the future, so the impact is still very large. Ding, the system only focuses on the root purpose, not the name and title, etc. Oh, I see. In simple terms, it means no. Can't this system give a serious answer? It always speaks in animal language that humans can't understand. Ding, the system will answer the question from the root. Please analyze the information carefully. The system scolded Zhonglun in a very connotative way, calling him illiterate. Zhonglun. With the mentality of not taking the system's faults into account, Zhonglun took out the prop card he had just exchanged from the storage space. Name, Health Recovery Card Category, Item Card Rank, E-Effect, instantly replenishes the energy storage limit of an 11 ability user. Consumption, Disposable Consumables Note. If the user is a level ability user, the maximum energy limit of 9 for an 11 ability user will be replenished this time. The picture of the blood recovery card is a small red bottle of potion, which can be easily defined as an instant blood recovery bottle in the game. With this thing, he can finally get rid of the trouble of losing combat value after every fight. It's too bad his current combat skills are passive and life-saving, and the few offensive skills are the extremely vulgar 1,000 years of killing and the 8 gates of Duanjia that injures 1,000 enemies but destroys 800 of his own. With this in mind, Zhang clicked on the button to buy a health card E. Ding, 10 energy points will be deducted, and a health card E will be obtained. Ding, 20 energy points are deducted, and a health recovery card E is obtained. Ding, 40 energy points are deducted, and a health recovery card E is obtained. He tapped 6 times like crazy before stopping. If he tapped again, it would be 640 energy points, which could be used to exchange for a crank fire style. Great fireball technique. It's not worth it. After exchanging this health recovery card E, Zhang clicked on the battle suit card D. Ding, deduct 50 energy points, and get a battle suit card D. Name, battle suit card D. Category, equipment card level, D. Effect, can instantly wear the preset equipment in the card. Note, this card is the only card held. Each upgrade will randomly generate multiple characteristics, and the host can choose any one of them. It seems pretty good. Taking out the battle suit card, the pattern on it is an empty palace. Zhang put the card on his forehead and immediately felt that he was transported to the palace on the card. The palace looked empty on the card, but once you entered the card, it was still empty. System, how do you use this thing? He shouted into the empty air. No response. System? It shut down again? At least give me a set of clothes first. Pajamas will do. That's right. He was naked now. There was still no response, but a set of pajamas suddenly appeared on his body, as if he had been wearing them before. Interesting. It seems like we're going to play a dress-up game. How about a skirt? As his wish came true, Zhang immediately put on a pink princess dress. The picture was so beautiful. He was just joking, but he didn't expect that it could actually work, so he immediately changed back into his pajamas. Afterwards, Zhang, who had found the trick, started a real-life dress-up game, from ancient armor to modern casual shirts, Hanfu, Tongfu, battle skirt, and chainmail, and had a lot of fun playing. After the novelty wore off, Zhang began to seriously consider what clothes he would wear in the next battle. In his mind, he recalled the costumes of superheroes he had seen in the movies, Superman's red underwear, Green Lantern's glowing animation, Captain America's flag tights, Thor's handsome cape. Finally, after many experiments, Zhang decided on his choice. Say his Odin God cloth, paired with a sky blue cape, perfect. This is something I saw when I was translating Japanese anime in my previous life. Zhang, who had always thought that the holy cloth was only gold in color, immediately fell in love with this unique blue holy cloth, the holy cloth of Odin. It's a pity that the card doesn't provide weapons, otherwise it would be cool if the sword could be matched with it. At present, this is just a set of clothes that resembles Odin's sacred clothes. It will not give Zhang any extra special abilities, and even the defense is only of ordinary strength. System, I'm sure, Zhang said. As the words fell, he felt his eyes light up, and he returned to the state of holding his forehead with his hand. Ding, the model of the battlesuit card D has been confirmed and is being generated. Has been generated. Ding, the level characteristics are being generated. The level characteristics have been generated. Please select one. Ding, the level characteristics are being generated. The level characteristics have been generated. Please select one. A level characteristics, change size, defense, enhancement, metal, swallowing, mental protection, level features. Physical recovery, self-repair, metal evolution, attack enhancement. Looking at the generated characteristics, there is no way to see the introduction of these characteristics, so I can only guess based on the literal meaning. After thinking for a long time, I finally chose the level characteristic, metal swallowing, and the level characteristic, self-repair, metal devouring. It can devour metal of the same level as the card, consuming energy points to replace the original structure. Self-repairing. After the damaged equipment is stored in the card, it will consume energy points to repair it, depending on the degree of damage. Ding, special effects have been generated. The battlesuit card D has been issued to the storage space. Taking out the battlesuit card from the storage space, I saw the pattern of the original blank palace. It was still the palace, and Zhang stood heroically in the middle, wearing the blue Odin sacred clothes, with the sky blue cape flying behind him. He was so handsome that he had no friends. He could not wait to stick the battlesuit card on his forehead. The card glowed slightly, and then turned into a few blue phantoms that flew out from the card, circling around Zhang, and then, like the holy clothes in the comics, they automatically put on the body after a crackling sound. Cool. He couldn't help but exclaim and hurried to his room. where there was a floor-to-ceiling mirror. Looking at the perfect figure in the floor-length mirror, Zhonglan's vanity was greatly satisfied. He took out his mobile phone and took pictures nonstop. It does look good, but it's a pity that it doesn't have any power right now. Even the combat power hasn't increased at all. Zhonglan sighed and put away the combat suit card. After issuing the command to collect, the Odin's sacred cloth on his body turned into a flowing blue light, gathered towards Zhonglan's forehead, and turned into a battle suit card again. System, can I change the name of the card? Battle suit card sounds too ugly. Zhonglan felt that when transforming, shouting Odin's divine cloth and shouting battle suit card were two completely different things. Ting, pay 1 energy point. You can rename the card. Wow, so granddad? Zhonglan said exaggeratedly. Then changed the battle suit card to Odin divine cloth. Beep, executing the command. Successfully deducted 1 energy point and changed the battle suit card D to Odin's divine cloth. Zhonglan held the Odin's holy cloth card with satisfaction. His vanity was greatly satisfied. He hummed a tune and walked slowly towards Peter's room. Pushing the door open and entering the room, I saw Peter practicing hand seals, with his shadow clone carefully guiding him. How is it, Peter? It's not that easy to practice, right? Zhonglan asked proudly. Hearing Zhonglan's words, Peter, who was originally a little proud, pursed his lips and said nothing. He practiced the hand seals silently, feeling the connection between chakra and hand seals. Zhonglan did not interrupt him and sat aside to ponder. Now he had a general idea of the system's function, and there were probably 3 tasks at the moment. The first one, of course, is the main mission, the second half of the first battle, to catch that damn guy. The second is to find a way to get some rule fragments, even if it's E, D, C, B, or a level. He doesn't expect S level for the time being. Thirdly, you can start promoting several novels and scripts in your collection. Although ordinary people only have 100 energy points even if they reach the level of faith, the basic amount is still large. Zhonglan took out a pen and paper from the table, drew a horizontal line, marked the time, and then prioritized the items one by one according to the marked items. He wrote and drew for half an hour before stopping. Closing his eyes, Zhonglan thought carefully and made sure that he remembered everything on the paper before burning the paper with a lighter. He also wanted to use ninjutsu or something to burn the paper, but unfortunately, Zhonglan didn't know any offensive ninjutsu now. Okay, Peter, stop for a moment. Zhonglan called Peter. I feel like I'm about to learn it. Peter said regretfully, I don't care if you interrupt me like this. You have to compensate me. Zhonglan's mouth twitched unnaturally. When did Spider-Man become such a rogue? But he didn't think about it. The Spider-Man in the original movie didn't have a brother, so naturally there wouldn't be this kind of dialogue that was like acting like a spoiled child to a parent. Okay, stop messing around and get serious. Zhonglan waved his hand in distress, interrupting Peter's long speech. After releasing the shadow clone, Zhonglan created another shadow clone. This was a way to quickly complete the task. The shadow clone jumped directly out of the window as soon as it appeared. He had a lot of things to do and needed to hurry. Hey, Lon, where's he going? Peter asked curiously. He's going to get you some things. Zhonglan kept it a secret. Peter, don't you think your attack methods are too simple? Have you considered using any weapons? Ah, yes, I think so too. But I don't know what weapon I'm going to use yet. I don't have any idea yet. Peter scratched his head in annoyance. Huh? You mutated after being bitten by a spider. What weapons do you think spiders use? Zhonglan encouraged Peter to think. He couldn't just tell Peter directly, oh, what you want to do, just do it this way, because that would make Peter dependent on him, which would be good for Zhonglan, but it was not what he wanted. Venom? No, I don't want to bite anyone. Peter said the word tentatively, and then denied it himself. So it's spider silk, right? Oh yes, Lon, spider silk. I finally know what I'm missing. Peter reacted quickly and immediately thought of spider silk. Excited Peter jumped barefoot from the bed to the ceiling, crawled from the ceiling to the computer desk, and searched for information swiftly, completely ignoring Zhonglan's existence. Peter, you're still missing data. Never mind. I'll help you with that. Zhonglan had been thinking about reminding Peter about the spider suit, but when he saw how excited Peter was, he gave up the idea of letting Peter make the suit himself. He had a better idea. Zhonglan walked out of the room, took out his cell phone, and looked at the keypad phone in his hand with unfamiliarity, thinking that this time when he went to Tony, he would have one more thing to cheat. Raising an eyebrow evilly, Zhonglan dialed the number. Beep. Hey, is that Lon? Do you know where Peter is? He didn't come to class today, and his phone is turned off. The phone rang a few times before being picked up. Well, it's me, Harry. Peter and I are at home, but you may have to ask for leave for us. Also, I need a few boxes of your company's Green Devil bio cables and more watch transmitters. Speaking of asking for leave, Zhonglun couldn't help but pursed his lips. Of course, there is no problem with these. Why do you want to take leave? Are you sick? How many days do you want to take leave? I don't know about you, but Peter is in the same class as me. I've already checked in for him. Tell him not to worry. The professor in the class today is Professor Carmen, and he is not strict. Harry agreed immediately and joked with ease. Why did he ask for leave? He was speechless for a moment. He really didn't want to say this reason. After a few seconds of silence, the sound of the school bell rang from the phone. Hey, Lon, are you still there? Class is about to start. If you don't say anything, I'll hang up. I'm a good kid who wants to get a scholarship. Harry hadn't heard Zhonglun speak for a long time and thought the other party was no longer on the phone. Harry, Uncle Ben, he was shot dead by robbers last night. Zhonglun spoke with difficulty. Harry often came to visit their home and had a deep affection for Uncle Ben. Harry on the other end of the phone was silent for a while and didn't say anything. Instead, an older voice was heard, asking Harry where he was going and that it was time for class. The older voice gradually faded away, and it seemed that Harry got up and left the classroom. Lon, April Fool's Day is over. It's better not to make such jokes. Only then did Harry speak, his tone trembling slightly. Zhonglun has been the most sensible one among the three since he was young, and has always played the role of the older brother of the two. He knows that Zhonglun respects his uncle very much and would never joke about this. Harry still hoped that this was a joke. Zhonglun. Seeing Zhonglun's silence, Harry gritted his teeth and wanted to say a few words of comfort, but he didn't know where to start. In this way, neither of them spoke, and a burst of hurried footsteps came from the microphone. Wait for me in half an hour. After Harry said this, he ended the call with the sound of a car starting up. Standing in the corridor, Zhonglun held the mobile phone in his hand for a long time, listening to the beep sound of hanging up, his eyes flickering, and no one knew what he was thinking about. Half an hour passed in the blink of an eye. From far away, the roar of a motor came from outside the house. The sound gradually approached, and with the sound of sudden brakes, the broken door of the house was opened, and a white boy pushed the door open, carrying a silver suitcase in his hand. The boy exudes an elegant temperament, yet also has a hint of gentle sunshine, which makes people feel close to him. However, the boy's face is now terribly gloomy, and he looks like he doesn't allow strangers to approach him. Zhonglun was sitting in the living room, and the boy saw him immediately. Lon, what's going on? Has that damn guy been caught? Harry asked impatiently, and casually dropped the suitcase in his hand at the door. Harry, keep your voice down. Zhonglun looked at Aunt May's room behind him and said, Aunt May just went to bed. Let's go to Peter's room and talk. 20 minutes later, in Peter's room, Harry glared at Peter with a sad and angry face. From Zhonglun's neutral narration, just now, Harry knew very well that Peter was most responsible for his uncle's death. Harry gritted his teeth, clenched his fists tightly, and stared at Peter with an uncertain expression. He was trying to control his anger. He believed that Peter was the most painful of the three because of Uncle Ben's death. For a moment, this small space was eerily quiet. Apart from the occasional sound of a car passing by outside the house, the only sound was Harry's heavy breathing. The murderer hasn't been caught yet, right? Are there any photos? After all, Harry was Austin's acting CEO, and he finally controlled his emotions. Peter didn't dare say much and handed Harry the copy of the portrait he got from the police for fear of angering Harry. He still remembered the beating he received from Zhonglun last night. He is the youngest of the three and has always been the one taken care of. He respects Harry and Zhonglun from the bottom of his heart. Harry took the copy of the portrait, looked at it carefully, made sure he remembered the face, and took a photo with his mobile phone. He wanted to mobilize his own resources to find this damn guy. After Harry had made some simple arrangements and put down his phone, Zhonglun spoke. Harry, I called you here today not only for the materials and these two things. There are two other main reasons why I called you here. Harry didn't say anything, just stared at Zhonglun silently, waiting for Zhonglun's next words. This was how the three of them usually got along. Mostly Peter was the one talking, Zhonglun and Harry were the ones listening. Zhonglun would occasionally interject a few words, and Harry would stay silent if he could. But at the critical moment, Zhonglun, who had lived two lives, repeatedly showed them his experience. The The first thing is to use your connections to get Uncle Ben's body out of the morgue at the police hospital, and then keep it in cold storage to ensure that Uncle Ben's body will not decay. Harry did not agree immediately, but frowned and looked at Zhang Lan in confusion. This request was unreasonable to ordinary people. Letting the dead rest in peace was the greatest respect for the dead. Zhang Lan continued. The reason is another thing. That is, the secret about me. He repeated to Harry what he had said to Peter last night, emphasizing his own pseudo-prophetic ability, and attributed the scripts and novels he had written before to the possibility of the future that he saw through prophecy. He just wrote down what he saw. Lon, although I trust you very much. Harry touched his forehead a little worriedly to make sure he didn't have a fever. But what you said is too outrageous and has no scientific basis at all. Zhang also guessed that Harry would not believe it immediately. After all, he had not mutated like Peter, so he had not been exposed to similar situations, and it was normal for him not to believe it immediately. The method to make him believe it was simple. After Peter displayed his extraordinary speed and spider-crawling ability, Zhang simply released the transformation and clone skills, claiming that these were abilities he learned in the future. Harry was a little shaken by the fact. He still felt that this was too weird. Harry, it's okay if you don't believe me now, but please believe me for now, because what I'm going to say next requires your trust. Zhang didn't insist. He had a trump card. Harry, Peter, if one day I face death, you can both save me. But the price of saving me is that Peter may expose your special ability, and Harry, your father, may have the hope of a cure. Yes, Harry, the hope of curing your family's genetic defect. Are you willing to pay this price? Don't answer me now. Think about it for a minute. Zhang Lan's tone was more serious than ever. The decision that Peter and Harry make next will affect his next decision and whether they will end up killing each other in the future. 1 minute was not long, and it passed quickly. Zhang Lan raised his hand to stop the two people who were about to answer and spoke seriously again. You must answer me seriously. This concerns my life. After saying that, he stretched out his hand to signal Peter to speak first. Peter answered with certainty, definitely, no matter what the cost. After saying that, the two looked at Harry. Lon, I don't know where you got the news about the genetic defect in our family. In fact, I didn't know about it. Harry said solemnly, but my father is indeed seriously ill. If I have to choose, I think I will choose you. After all, it was you and Peter who stayed with me when I was abandoned at school at the age of 13 and have been studying there ever since. In this world, apart from my deceased mother, you two are my closest relatives, followed by my father, who treated me as a tool for succession. Yes, Zhang Lan secretly congratulated himself in his heart. It's worth it for me to take care of you for so many years, Harry. Zhang Lan's spirit is stronger than that of ordinary people, especially after practicing. He can feel Harry's sincerity, and he believes that what Harry says is true. After getting the answer he wanted, Zhang Lan took action again. This time he did not describe it with words. Instead, he formed seals with his hands and activated the only illusion he knew. Illusion fantasy, this illusion is only of the basic E level and has no offensive capabilities. It can only simply trap unsuspecting people in a pre-designed illusion. Will Peter and Harry be on guard against Zhang Lan? Obviously not. The illusion was a successful hit. In the illusion, the two experienced some of the scenes when Zhang Lan watched The Amazing Spider-Man 2. Harry's hands started shaking when he was young. Norman Osborn was lying on the bed in critical condition, and he told Harry about his family history. When Harry was caught between the pain of losing his father and the death of his father, Peter extended a hand of friendship. Norman Osborn murdered Peter's father, Richard Parker, for profit. In the abandoned subway tunnel, the information left by Peter's father. In order to protect Harry, he refused his request for blood transfusion. Harry's madness when facing death. Harry risked his life to be directly injected with spider venom made from Peter's father's genes. Although the genetic defect was successfully cured by the healing function of the Green Goblin armor, he was also disfigured and his personality changed greatly. The battle between Harry and Peter, and when was indirectly killed by Peter. The illusion ended here, and this was the scene that Zhang Lan thought they needed to see. Poof. Just when Peter and Harry were still digesting the information in the illusion, Zhang Lan suddenly opened his mouth and spat out a large mouthful of blood, which was mixed with a large amount of internal organ fragments, and his face turned pale rapidly. This scene frightened Peter and the other two. They ignored the shock they had just seen in the illusion and surrounded Zhang Lan, anxiously asking what was going on. Lan, oh God, no, what's wrong with you? Don't be like this. Oh my God, Lan, why are you vomiting so much blood? Call an ambulance. Yes, call an ambulance. Harry hurriedly took out his cell phone and dialed the number. Before he could say anything, a blood mist suddenly burst out from Zhang Lan's body. His entire body was torn apart. Then, his chest, which had been breathing heavily, also stopped rising and falling. Seeing this, Harry threw away his phone in panic, not caring about the phone that broke into pieces on the ground. He rushed to Zhang Lan and tried to feel his pulse nervously. Pulse that stopped, breathing that stopped, heartbeat that stopped. Harry and Peter were completely stunned. Wasn't he chatting happily just now? How could he suddenly die so miserably? Just when the two were at a loss, the door of the room was pushed open from the outside. Peter reacted quickly and stood between the door and Zhang Lan, thinking that it was Aunt May who came. He couldn't imagine whether Aunt May could accept the fact that she lost two relatives in a row within 24 hours. The door opened, and it was Zhang Lan who walked in, carrying a gourd with a big sand character written on it. It was the shadow clone that Zhang Lan had sent out before. Harry had no idea how to react. He just stared blankly at the shadow clone and Zhang Lan who had died on the bed. Can anyone tell me what's going on?